All sports, all the time.
There's heroes and there's legends. Heroes get remembered. Legends never die.
This is the Spoken Podcast.
Hold your ears, folks. It's showtime.
I'm your host, Lance Twidwell.
Man, that kid, he can ball, man. He can ball.
Touchdown, Kansas City!
Patrick freaking Mahomes, baby!
Let's talk some sports because that's what we're here to do.
You are tuned in to The Spoken.
This is the Spoken Podcast. I'm your host, Lance Twidwell. Here inside the Spoken Studios with my guys, Trevor Twidwell.
Was good.
And Eddie Ortiz.
Yo.
Episode 174, full swing, full motion. Good morning to you all, you beautiful people. Whether you're live streaming, whether you're YouTubing or you're podcasting, we want to thank you for making time to be with us on this beautiful Saturday. I don't know when you guys are going to be listening to this or watching this. We appreciate the time you're giving us, guys, because we have a lot to talk about when it comes to the world of sports. I know this is the dead time of year when all we have to do is sift through old topics that aren't as relevant as they will be in a few months, Baker Mayfield, and baseball. But we have some things we want to talk about when it comes to the Kansas City Chiefs here in Kansas City, because we know that's why a majority of you do tune in. But trust me when I say the Eddie Hour is going to have plenty of things to go off of, guys. I'm sure that we're going to have some many discussions in regards to the world of sports in a general sense. But, I got Eddie over there. Oh, no, Eddie's got his phone. I'm sure he's going to find it somewhere. But we're going to... Actually, let me give him a call real quick and see if he's going to be...
It might be in his... I think it's in his car.
This is how we start our shows off, guys. We're professionals here.
Don't you guys worry.
Don't you guys... Stay tuned, guys. Our guy, Eddie Ortiz, is not going to leave for at least a couple more weeks. But when he's here, guys, he's going to give us what he's got. I can't wait to hear what he's got in the Eddie Hour. He doesn't like to tell me what he's got for me each and every time. But we like to stay on our toes because these guys also don't know sometimes what I'm going to throw their way at the beginning of every show. But again, thank you guys so much for being with us this week.
Feels good to be back.
Feels good to be back for Trevor. I know that he was dealing with some sickness last week. Yeah. And we got the whole crew back together for at least this week. And we got some training camp coming up in a couple of weeks. Perfect timing for Eddie to leave again. We're really excited about that. But we got some deadlines heading out with some guys that are going to be going for their franchise tags, trying to get extensions. We're going to talk about that in a second, about how that affects one particular player in Kansas City. But I want to start with something else when it comes to the Kansas City Chiefs, when it comes to a player that we've talked about a lot. We started these last few shows with Travis Kelce and Juju Smith-Schuster, some of the confidence that we have in some of these young guys. We talk about the guys that have potential disappointment from this draft class, guys that we think are going to have big booming seasons, maybe even unexpected in a sense from them early on. But I want to talk about a player in particular that I think is being extremely undervalued, and because of the positional uptick or a lot of movement in flux at his particular position, I think he's being a little overlooked as well, and that's Mecole Hardman. Now, there's so many strong opinions on Mecole Hardman from Chiefs fans and from people that pay attention to the Chiefs at all extremes and both sides of the spectrum here, because we all know that the initial presentation of Mecole Hardman being a Chief was to be a potential replacement to Tyreek Hill 3 years ago. That didn't end up happening because we all know that Tyreek Hill ended up staying in Kansas City. He was fully innocent and exonerated from the accusations that were being presented by a former spouse of his, or a former girlfriend of his, rather. And then Tyreek Hill got an extension and stayed here for 3 more seasons. Now that Tyreek Hill is gone, Mecole Hardman, in some sense, is now ironically viewed going into his 4th season as a potential replacement for Tyreek Hill, or at least a portion of that replacement for Tyreek Hill. And I made a post a couple days ago that got a lot of reaction on both sides of the spectrum, on brand, as expected, because of the fact that, again, Mecole Hardman is a guy that garners a lot of attention, a lot of criticism, and a lot of acclaim from Chiefs fans and football fans around the globe. And I made this post and I said, I don't think it's ridiculous to think that Mecole Hardman can or will eclipse 1,000 receiving yards this season. And first and foremost, I want to talk about the fact that We've addressed that this team is built in a very unique way because there are so many players that have prove-it deals currently in place. And Mecole Hardman is definitely one of those guys. We know that this is his fourth and final season of his rookie deal with the Chiefs. We don't know what the future is going to hold for Mecole Hardman, whether he's going to stay here in Kansas City and they're going to get a deal done with him before next year and he becomes a free agent, or the Chiefs let him walk, they try to trade him. Something of that nature can happen, and something like that will probably happen, but we can theorize that as time goes on. But I want to address directly what I think or what I can expect from Mecole Hardman, why I feel confident that he's the type of guy that can eclipse 1,000 yards to be a legitimate contributor for this Chiefs team. In 2021, Mecole Hardman had 133 more yards and 21 more targets and 18 more receptions than he did the season previous in 2020. Both seasons had both Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce taking the majority of the targets. And although I am somebody that is very much expecting a big year from Juju Smith-Schuster, I'm a big fan of his, and I really, really love the potential that Juju would have in this offense. Hardman has the upper hand in one area over Juju. It's the system. He's been in this system now going on 4 years. In all 3 seasons of Hardman's career to this point, his targets have gone up each and every year exactly 21 each time. That's freaking wild. His receptions have gone up by at least 15, and his yards have gone up by at least 22, and then 133 from the 2020 to 2021. If you just went by that pace, Mecole Hardman is set to have a season of 104 targets, 81 receptions, and 804 yards. But as we all know, Tyreek is gone, and as good as Juju is, he's not Tyreek Hill. So I am fully expecting Hardman's targets, receptions, and yards to continue to go up, but go up even more than they have over the last 3 years in pace. Not to mention the fact that the 17-game schedule benefits his production. Seeing that 2020 was the final year we had a 16-game schedule, you notice that the 2021 season, his numbers went up exponentially. Plus, let's be real here, Hardman has never missed a game. He's one of the more durable receivers in football, given the fact he's under 6 feet and weighs about $175, $180. So with his durability, with his gradual statistical climb, with the extra game, with Tyreek gone, with this being his last season on his rookie deal, I fully anticipate and expect a career year from Mecole Hardman, and that could very well mean 1,000 plus yards. Now, let me contextualize something here. I'm not saying that 1,000 yards is what's going to make Mecole Hardman a legitimate contributor for this team, because we all know that there are many guys in this league at that position in particular that have 750, 850 yard seasons that are extreme contributors, because we all know that the big cows get fed. And we know that Travis Kelce's the big cow in this offense. We know that this team's got utilized or stacked the running back core, which means that more than likely they're going to be more utilized as passing options in this offense. Rojo, a kind of guy that can catch out of the backfield. Clyde, in his college years, was known to catch out of the backfield. We know that Jerick McKinnon, who the Chiefs just re-signed, was a guy that was crushing defenses in the playoffs in the pass game. Not to mention the fact, again, they went and got Juju Smith-Schuster, a guy that's put up 1,492 yards and 12 touchdowns in a single season at one point in his early career. MVS, a guy that is a lot like Mecole Hardman, is a burner and can get you, beat you downfield and make these big highlight plays. We know that Sky Moore is a guy that the Chiefs were big on. We know that a lot of scouts were big on, was taken in the early 50s. We know that this team has a ton of talent and a ton of options for Patrick Mahomes to utilize. But Mecole Hardman is the longest tenured wide receiver on this team, and I think there's something that needs to be said about that. I think that needs to be discussed, because we look at him as such a young player. He's only 24 years old, very young player in age, but this guy is experienced and he knows this offense. And this is the time in a lot of wide receivers' careers where they really start to take off. I'm not saying that Mecole Hardman's ever going to become an all-time great receiver, but we saw guys like Terrell Owens and Chris Carter. Their careers didn't take off. It took 3-4 solid seasons for them to really start producing at a high level. Michael Irvin, same thing. We see our Justin Jeffersons, and we see our Jamar Chases and Randy Mosses, Calvin Johnsons, that day one they're just elite receivers. We see that. That's a reality for some, but that's not a reality for most. And I'm not sitting here saying Mecole Hardman will ever become anything close to that. More than likely won't. But I think this guy can be a deadly receiving option for this team, whether it's gadget plays, whether it's gimmicky stuff. Gimmicky and gadget stuff work. especially in this type of offense. What is the thing that the NFL has been trying to replicate for the last 3 years that Andy Reid pretty much introduced to this league? That little shovel pass in the red zone, right? Where he's looking around, he just does that little dink off to Travis Kelce right in the middle, and they just run it up. That's been working for the Chiefs for 3 or 4 solid years now. You've seen a lot of other offenses acclimate that or implement that into their offenses. It's a copycat league. Guys like Mecole Hardman, you can't just copy what they do because he has something that most receivers don't have: elite speed. Outside of Tyreek Hill, you can't name a receiver that is definitively faster than Mecole Hardman in this NFL right now. You can't. There are guys that are comparable. There are guys out there that are comparable, but see, what Mecole Hardman possesses is the ability to be an effective receiver, gadget, gimmicky, whatever you want to call it, while also maintaining that speed. We've seen guys like John Ross that was absurdly fast, but he was a terrible receiver. He just wasn't good at football, but he was just insanely fast. Guys like Mecole Hardman have the ability to give you that production while still being insanely fast. And our guy, our producer Clay Windler, actually came at me yesterday, and he was talking about Mecole Hardman directly. He said he's a gadget player, nothing more. Not having Tyreek probably makes him worse. But I vehemently disagree with this. And the biggest reason why is because the numbers suggest that that's wrong. So in 5 career games without Tyreek Hill, Mecole Hardman averages 5 targets, 3 receptions, and 54 yards per game. You span that over a 17-game schedule, and he has 85 targets, 51 receptions, and 918 yards. That's right at 1,000 yards without Tyreek Hill on the field. Those would be career highs in targets, second most in receptions, and career high in yards for Mecole Hardman. So without Tyreek Hill, he's actually a better player.
I mean, it's more opportunity.
Exactly. And that's the point I'm trying to make here, is that Mecole Hardman, for the first time in his career, is going to get an opportunity that he's never had before to be a legitimate wide receiver 1. I don't know if he's going to be the wide receiver 1 here, but I'm saying the opportunity is finally there for him because let's be honest, since he's been drafted, there's never been a debate who's the best receiver on this team.
Yeah.
Never been a debate. Tyreek Hill has been an all-pro player since Mecole Hardman's been drafted, before Mecole Hardman was drafted. So this is his first real opportunity, and I think there is a real opportunity because I've seen people on our post talking about how they think that Mecole Hardman would be lucky to make this team. I think people are severely underestimating him and downplaying how good he's been to this point of his career. Has he been great? Has he been the guy that we expected him to be day one? No, he hasn't been. But that doesn't mean he's been a failure. And I think for people to think he's not going to make this team is just absurdly naive and just misguided. And I don't understand that point of view. And I'm maybe just somebody that's bigger on Mecole Hardman than others. I've defended him since the day he came here because I think it was unfair what he walked into with the expectations that just are not realistic for most receivers.
It's a strange environment.
I think he's done more than enough to garner respect and confidence from us, the fans, and quite frankly the team. Because if you notice, his snap counts continue to go up every year too. So this we know Andy Reid. If he doesn't believe you can get the job done, you're on the bench. I mean, LaShawn McCoy was a guy that Andy Reid drafted 12 years ago, right? And in Kansas City, he had every opportunity to give LaShawn McCoy all the snaps, all the opportunities. In the Super Bowl, the dude sat. In the Super Bowl in 2020. So we all know that if Andy Reid, even if he loves you to death and he's a guy that you're a guy he drafted, if he doesn't think you're going to get the job done, you're not playing. Your snap counts are going to go down. McColl's are going up. And I think that opportunities are going to be there for him to have a big season. And I'm expecting Mecole Hardman to have a big season this year. Trevor, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, even over the last 4 to 5 weeks of last season, I mean, Andy Reid was, singing the praises of Mecole Hardman, saying that he's kind of coming into his own, he's kind of finding his way into this offense, and he was definitely playing really, really well down the stretch last season. So I think that's something that we can expect to build upon this year. And as far as him possibly not making the team, that's just absurd. I mean, he's obviously, in my mind, I think Juju's the wide receiver 1, and I think he's the wide receiver 2. I think that's just kind of how it's going to go this season. But there are a lot of new mouths to feed, and a lot of the ball, I think the ball is going to get spread around a whole lot this year. I think we're going to see a lot of targets dispersed throughout a lot of hands and a lot of numbers. So I'm not sure about 1,000 yards. That's definitely something that would be a nice accomplishment for him heading into free agency, because I don't believe he's going to be a Chief after this season. But I think heading into free agency, if he reaches that 1,000-yard mark, has maybe 8 touchdowns or so, maybe more. If he hits double digits, that's a jackpot for his free agency. But yeah, I fully expect Mecole to have a good year this year. He's very effective in so many different ways, like you alluded to. Like he's The jet sweeps are extremely deadly. He's great with those. He's extremely fast, one of the fastest guys in this league. I can't think of a scenario where he's statistically worse with Tyreek gone. That doesn't really compute with me. I think it has to be. I mean, the more opportunity, he's going to have better numbers. More targets equal better numbers, yards, so on. So I think he's going to have far more opportunity to up all his career highs. I think that only makes sense mathematically. So being worse, I'm not sure how that's really even possible unless outside of an injury. But I listen, man, I'm a McColl fan. I was very, very slow to liking him. You were much quicker on the train than I was. I do think there's promise. I do think he's a very valuable guy on any football team. Any team could use a guy like him, whether it's in special teams, or the jet sweeps, or in just a deep 9 route. You know what I mean? Whatever it is, he's very valuable. Using speed like that is valuable. And he's gotten better with the ball in his hands, and he's gotten better with running certain routes, quick slants and things like that, and knowing where to be. There was a lot of communication issues between him and Pat many, many times throughout his career so far here. But he's tightened a lot of that up. I'm excited for him this year. I'm with you. I think this is a great opportunity. He knows that too. This is kind of this is basically a contract year for him as well, to go out there and put the best film out there possible. And this is the best chance he could. I don't think there's ever going to be a better chance for him to have a better year in the NFL than this year for McCole Hardman. No matter where he goes after he leaves in free agency, no matter what team he goes to, he's playing with the best quarterback he's ever going to play with. He's in the best offense he's ever going to be a part of. So I mean, this is the most opportunity he might ever have, unless he goes to like Carolina or some other team that's going to try to make him, a very integral part of their offense. But again, this is the best quarterback and offense he's going to be a part of under the best head coach he's ever going to have. He's going to have to seize the day, So I'm with you, man. I'm expecting big things. I mean, I think Chiefs fans should be expecting big things from McCole Hardman, because you said he is the longest tenured guy here outside of Travis Kelce now. He learned under Tyreek Hill. He watched Tyreek Hill. He watched the dominance of that. He's not Tyreek Hill. He doesn't have the certain gifts that Tyreek Hill has, but I think he's going to take advantage of this opportunity. And outside of an injury or something like that, taking him out, I think he's going to do the best he can. I think he's going to have a great year. I don't know about 1,000 yards. I think he could definitely be pushing that. I think Juju's going to accumulate a lot of targets, and I think he's going to be the guy this year. But outside of that, I think he should be the wide receiver too, and I think he's earned that. So I'm with you on that though.
Man, 1,000 yards, that doesn't seem like a lot, but that's a lot coming from especially a team that's gonna have plenty of weapons to our targets, who Patrick Mahomes can throw the ball to. I am with Trevor. I see Juju as a wide receiver one on this team. I think he's gonna receive the most targets this year. I think they're going to try and make him, between him and Kelce, they're going to kind of compensate Tyreek Hill's targets. But 1,000 yards, that seems a little excessive, especially for Mecole Hardman, what he's shown us throughout his career. He hasn't shown us that he can be that wide receiver 2, if anything. I think him and MVS are going to be fighting for the number 2 spot. I think it's not something that Mecole Hardman has on lock. I think the way that mandatory minicamp or whatever they call it, I heard and I was reading that MVS and Patrick Mahomes clicked right away. That was a chemistry that they were not expecting, and that's something that really, really outshined a lot of the offense, how MVS and Patrick Mahomes clicked right away. So it's gonna be tough for Mecole Hardman to compete with MVS, because I mean, honestly, there's not much that we can look back and say it's like, well, Mecole Hardman has the upper edge. I think they're both coming into this season, as a wide receiver 2, and you can't really put one on top of the other because you really haven't seen much from either.
Yep.
Yes, Mecole Hardman has the jet sweeps, but when it comes to route running, he's not the greatest at route running and catching the ball. We've seen how many drop passes he was by himself and just couldn't catch the ball. There are some good catches that he has. There are some good routes but he is not consistent in that aspect. I'm not saying he's gonna have a terrible season. I don't realistically see him eclipsing 1,000 yards this season, just for the simple fact that there's going to be so many targets, and I think this offense is going to evolve around Patrick Mahomes just distributing the ball everywhere and anywhere he sees an opening. But I'm not trying to bash Mecole Hardman. He can very well go out there and ball out and have a career year. Obviously, contract years are always undefeated, like Trash Paler used to say. So it's going to be very, very interesting to see how Mecole Hardman takes that competition with MVS. If that motivates him to become the guy in this offense, kind of compete with Juju in that aspect. But I just don't see Mecole Hardman being that guy.
Yeah, I don't either. Just to clarify, because I think what gets lost in translation is when you sit here, like you said about the MVS thing, about how the Chiefs weren't expecting, at least this early, for MVS and Mahomes to have that type of chemistry, but they were hoping for that, right? So I think that's what we're looking at here is with Mecole, is that we're hoping it. Expecting it can be tough. And again, I don't want to just set the bar just at 1,000 yards, because I think Mecole can be an insanely effective player for this team, because we've seen him before be insanely effective in big moments, no less, in playoff games, big games, things of that nature, without being the key contributor. He can be a key contributor, just not the key contributor. And to this point about not getting to 1,000 yards, think about it like this, just to make the argument, though. In order for Mecole Hardman to even just reach 1,000 yards this season, he only has to average 59 receiving yards a game. So, for instance, what he averages in his career right now per game is 37 yards per game in receiving yards. It's not a lot, but think about that. It's only 22 more yards per game. That's one single catch for Mecole Hardman, because we all know this dude can house it at any given time. So if you just give him one extra catch per game, this dude's going to be flirting with 1,000 yards this season. So I get what you're saying about like how that can be a steep task, a big ask, but I don't think it's, even with Travis Kelce and Juju Smith-Schuster absorbing the majority of it, I think MVS and guys like Mecole Hardman are be guys that are boomer bust type players still, but Mecole Hardman still has the upper hand, because even though MVS is building this chemistry with Patrick Mahomes, I maybe it's just because I'm not as big on MVS as other people are.
I am.
But Davante Adams was literally only legitimate target for Aaron Rodgers over the last 4 or 5 years. MVS was there, and MVS was putting up numbers inferior to what Mecole Hardman was doing as the number 3 or 4 option in this offense. So, and Aaron Rodgers, outside of Patrick Mahomes, is arguably the best quarterback in football. He won back-to-back MVPs. So, I have a hard time believing that with knowing that Mecole Hardman's going into year 4 in this offense, MVS is walking. I get it. My point, though, is
the running backs more than they do wide receiver too.
True, but I'm saying that MVS was a guy that was outside of Davante Adams, the only legitimate. Allen Lazard wasn't better than MVS. Allen Lazard you said that yourself, that you weren't big on Allen Lazard. So my point is that I think that given the production and given what wide receiver rankings these two guys have had, I still give Mecole Hardman the upper hand over MVS. I would be willing to bet that Mecole Hardman's going to have better numbers than MVS is, because I think he's more familiar with this offense. There's more of a chemistry, and
it's a contract year.
Let's talk about this also. What's been this big BS myth that's been out there for all these years, or what people are trying to overly criticize Mecole Hardman on every offseason? Well, he's not out there practicing with Patrick Mahomes during the summer. He's not doing that. He must not be dedicated. He must not be loyal. What did he just do this offseason? He was down there in Texas with Patrick Mahomes and all the guys, practicing his ass off, trying to get this offense clicking on all cylinders day one. But Mecole Hardman's out here doing the work. And with his talent, with his abilities, you're 100% correct, Eddie. His route running has been rough, but those are coaching things in my eyes. I don't think that's something he's not capable of getting better at.
He definitely was better the last few weeks of the season last year.
Yes, exactly.
Even Andy Reid had to address it. He said he came into his own. Like, that's definitely something that you need to take note of. If Andy Reid's pointing that out and, admitting that Mecole is definitely coming into his own role, that's a big deal. And that was a great way to end the season last year. And if he can continue that, he knows this is his contract year. He knows this is maybe his last hurrah here in KC. His last chance maybe to get a chip here, make a run for it, and hit the free market after this season's over. So he's going to try to make the best of it. And if a guy is motivated like that, a guy with his skill set and his abilities and as fast as he is, I'm expecting him. I'm 100% expecting him to be the wide receiver too, as far as opportunity. But if he starts failing and we have to go away from him, and MVS starts to take over that role, it is what it is. I just want to win. I don't really care about his numbers, honestly, but I do think he has the best opportunity to take it to be that guy this year.
And think about all the advantages for the Chiefs in this regard to get McColl, the incentives for the Chiefs to get McColl up and going this season, to have a career year.
Yeah.
Okay, if they see a massive upswing in his production, let's say he becomes an 1,100-yard guy with 79 to 85 catches and like 6-7 touchdowns, right? Then you can look at it and go, okay, this dude's not even 25 years old. We can invest into him. The cap's going to go up significantly this next offseason. We can pay McCole Hardman. That's on the extreme side, right? Like that's the lofty side of this scenario, right? Mm-hmm. But even in that's a great idea, because then you don't have to go and spend expensive amounts of draft picks on wide receivers in the hopes of replacing that guy. You can just invest into him here. That's the lofty side. The other side is this. He has a baller season, right? 24 years old. Chiefs are like, let's franchise tag this dude and see what we can get him in the market. Then all of a sudden, you can get yourself a nice little back-to-back off seasons, trading away your wide receivers for multiple picks. Like, think about how great that would look on Brett Veach's resume. If he can get 5 picks out of a Tyreek Hill trade and then 3 more picks on a McCole Hardman trade the very next offseason. You get 8 picks out of 2 wide receivers. You know how insane that is to think about? With the Chiefs already having 12 picks next offseason?
Now we'll just package it for Debo.
You don't... I would love that. But you get what I'm saying, though, right? You like the opportunities there in that regard is you can invest in him if he has a big season, or you can go and get investments in return from him this next offseason. Let's say the Chiefs make him an offer. Like we'll give him a contract offer. This is scenario 3. We'll give him a contract offer if someone else beats it. Let's say like a Panthers team, like you said, Trevor. I don't think they'd be in there because they got DJ Moore and a couple other guys. But let's say a team like the Jets. Thank you. The Jets want to build more around Zach Wilson, right? Let's go get him the Jet. Let's go get him McCole Hardman, right?
Fucking perfect.
It'd be perfect, right? And they offer him $65 million. And the Chiefs are offering him $50. Yeah, exactly. A team like that in the NFC, or AFC, NFC, whatever. Doesn't matter. And he takes that money, Chiefs get a comp pick. Chiefs get a 3rd-round pick out of that.
Yeah.
So any of these scenarios are going to benefit the Chiefs. If he becomes a legitimate threat and the Chiefs want to keep him, great. If he becomes a legitimate threat and they want to trade him, great. If he becomes a legitimate threat and he wants to go elsewhere for money, great. Either way, it's going to benefit the Chiefs.
It's a trifecta win-win-win situation for fans, the Chiefs organization, and McCole, because either way he's going to get paid if he goes off this season. He's going to get paid whether he's here or somewhere else. He's going to be most likely the guy or a major part of an offense wherever he goes. He's probably going to go to a bad team that desperately needs his services. And then for the Chiefs, obviously, we win because we'll get whatever we get from him, and it'll probably be a nice couple picks or something like that, or another package for a player.
And to all these awesome scenarios that we're talking about, these are all after this season. If he has the scenario I haven't even talked about is if he has a baller season. To your point, Trevor, what you just said about all I want to do is win.
Yeah.
If he has a big season, what's that mean for this team? If McCole, the Chiefs have won 53 games over the last 4 seasons. That's with McCole Hardman playing 35 yards a game kind of guy, 37 yards per game kind of guy.
Think about McCole. Just put yourself in McCole's shoes, just for his personal pride. You know, he was brought here to kind of be that Tyreek replacement guy. It never really panned out because Tyreek never was really suspended for things he never did. That all kind of, and then Tyreek was here, and then McCole was the member. Even last season, he was talking about he wanted the ball more. He didn't feel like he was getting the ball more. This is his biggest opportunity for his personal pride to shine, and all this McCole thing that's been going, or this Tyreek stuff that's been going on with him talking about, 2 of this, 2 of that, and all these things, and now Tyreek's kind of taking his way that way. McCole has that opportunity to kind of throw on his cape and be a superhero for Kansas City. Like, look, I can fill this role. I can put up these big numbers. I'm not Tyreek Hill. I can do it my way, though.
Yeah.
This is a great opportunity. It's kind of a fun build-up to see what he's capable of, what he can dig down deep and find and become and evolve into a guy. I mean, he's still a young guy, man. There's still things he can change. There's still things he can improve upon.
That's the key right there, Trevor, is that it's his age. This is why I'm looking at this with such potential. If this dude was 28, 29 years old right now, but guys, we know what he is. Mm-hmm. This is year 7, year 6, 7 of McCole. Like I kind of feel like you get a really good idea of what a guy is at a skill position at that point of their career. This dude is just reaching what he could potentially become. We have could we all definitively say what we know McCole Hardman will be in 3 years? We have no idea, because in 3 years he'll be in the prime of his life. 27 to 30 years old is when an athlete really reaches their apex. Especially guys that rely on their speed. Look at Tyreek Hill at the peak of his powers, 28 years old. This is where we know that Tyreek Hill is a solidified, bona fide badass, is because he's given us 6 great seasons. McColl's only going into year 4. And again, I'm not trying to draw comparisons here between him and other great receivers. He more likely will never be those guys. But can I see him being a guy that gets me 59 yards a game? You bet your ass I do.
Well, even as great as Tyreek Hill was, it wasn't until year 3 till he became like a true number 1 wide receiver.
Right.
Yeah, he was a returner mostly and a specialist guy and gadgety guy similar to McCall Hardman for the first year and a half
He had
of
to
his
put in
career.
that work. Yeah.
Yeah, and then it wasn't until like towards the end of year 2 we're like, this guy might be the best receiver in football possible.
Right.
Like, he has that in him, you know, and he's arguably been that the last couple seasons. You know, numbers-wise and effective and impact and everything all together. Tyreek Hill's up there with anybody else. He's paid like it, too. So, listen, man, I'm not saying he's Tyreek. He's can definitely have a big year this year. And I think he's motivated, and when you package that motivation and pride with him wanting to do something different this year and be special this year and is practicing with Patrick Mahomes, is taking this season very seriously, has the backing of Coach Reed, was braggadocious about him the last few weeks of the season last year, building on that momentum. This is the perfect scenario for him. This is the perfect scenario for him and the Chiefs and Mahomes and everybody in this offense because, you know, you're going to get the best out of him. You're going to get the best out of – you got multiple contract years out of him and Juju.
And the biggest point of all of this, and we'll move on from this topic, is the fact that the worries that I think that we've all been having, this is what I want to bring up in all of this is what I want people to focus on. The worries that we had about losing Tyreek Hill are valid, but I don't think they're as valid as we think they really were, if that makes sense. What I mean by that is...
We don't know yet. But
we're so... I'm saying I'm confident they're not going to be.
It could be glaring.
I'm confident that this team's going to have a great offense with or without Tyreek Hill.
For sure.
Based upon what we've seen Patrick Mahomes do with or without Tyreek Hill, and the confidence I have in having the best head coach and quarterback coaching staff in the NFL, in my opinion, to lead this team into. There might be times and woes and things of that nature. We saw it with Tyreek Hill. But I think that this coaching staff got significantly better, as Eddie and I talked about last week with Matt Nagy coming back and the impact I think he's going to have on this offense in particular.
Yes.
And in this team, because he's coached a full team and he learned those things through the crap he went through in Chicago, which was unfair in some regards, but we'll go on that another time. I think that's going to be a serious advantage, but I think the talent is there, man. And I think we're starting to see more and more people jump on that bandwagon that this wide receiver core as a whole is better than it was last season. I think just the expectations on paper right now, they got to go out and prove it, but I think Sky Moore is going to be a really good receiver in this league. I think Juju Smith-Schuster is one of the more underrated receivers in this league. I do like MVS's ability to go and get those 60-yard bombs. You know, we all know Patrick loves those. We all know those kind of guys Patrick Mahomes wants and needs.
Or a nice
6'4",
nice corner post.
Yes, nice. Yeah, that one of those skinny posts. You know, one of those nice little fade routes. Those are with McCole Hardman on the other side, the speedsters, those guys that have the wheels. What I'm saying is, I think that this offense is going to show us the versatility as opposed to, well, it's Travis Kelce and Tyreek Hill, man. Good luck stopping them. No, it's, hey, they got 5 or 6 legitimate dudes out there that any given point can break off a big 50, 60-yard touchdown. Travis Kelce, even a 6'5", 255-pound tight end, can go and how many times last season alone did he go and get a 40, 50-yard touchdown, and 35 of those yards were on his fucking feet?
And we got Jody Fortson coming back, and Noah Gray might be having a good second year.
The point I'm making is that there's going to be a plethora, to enter my 3 amigos here, a plethora of weapons for this team, and I think the guys like McCole Hardman are going to be one of those dudes that says, hey, I'm still here. I know Tyreek's gone, and it sucks, because it's always easier to have a talent like Tyreek Hill on your side, but without him, there's going to be dudes that step up and make things happen on this offense to the point where you may never forget Tyreek Hill, but you understand the absence, and you can deal with the absence better, because you don't have a gaping hole anymore. You have a 3 or 4 guys that are filling that need together, and I think that's what's going to happen. And I think McCole Hardman is going to be one of those key guys this season. Maybe I'll be wrong, but I think as a wide receiver 3 and wide receiver 4 throughout the first 3 years of his career, he's been pretty damn effective. Now he could be that, like you said, Trevor, potentially wide receiver 2. I think sky's the limit for him, man. I really think he could do some big things in this offense. And speaking of this offense, we're going to stay on that side of the ball here. I'm gonna make a definitive statement here, and it might blow up in my face because I might be wrong, but that's what we do here, man. We make predictions and we live with them. The Chiefs are 100% going to pay Orlando Brown Jr. It's possible it's possible that the contract doesn't get finalized this year before the July 15th deadline, which is about 6 days away from when we're live streaming this right now. I'm not banking on that happening to where he doesn't get that done by July 15th. I am confident it's going to happen, but it is possible. I'm gonna keep that there. But I'm going to explain to you guys the reasons as to why I am so confident that this contract extension is going to happen. For one, what the Chiefs gave up for Orlando Brown Jr. I've been preaching this one until people have gotten sick of it. But it's true. The Chiefs gave up 4 picks for Brown, including 2 picks in the top 95 and 2 additional mid-round picks. And if you ask me, I think the Chiefs clearly won that trade when you see that they also got the 58th overall pick back from the Ravens. What did the Chiefs take with that one? Oh, yeah, Nick Bolton, one of the best young linebackers in the entire league right now. That trade is extremely similar to what the Chiefs gave up for Frank Clark in 2018's offseason with the Seattle Seahawks when they gave up 2 top 60 picks and swapping third-round picks. Very, very comparable. Orlando Brown Jr. has been better at his position in 1 year with the Chiefs than Frank Clark has been in 3 years. I don't even know if that's a debate. Yet the Chiefs have decided to keep Frank Clark for an additional 4th season. I think this shows us that when the Chiefs trade for a guy, they plan on keeping that guy around for at least 3 or 4 years. Our guy Seth Kaiser was on the show back in June, and he was talking about how he believes that the Chiefs believe that they can get the most out of a player and what they saw in a player in film from years ago. I remember him specifically saying that that's why they've kept Frank Clark as long as they have, because they still think 2017, 2018 Frank Clark is there, where they can get 10, 15 sacks out of this guy. I don't believe that, but Seth and other people do believe that the Chiefs look at it that way. Which leads me to my next reason. The Chiefs have already seen Orlando Brown Jr. in this system for an entire year. And he got better as the season progressed last season. This is something that cannot be downplayed or overlooked. Brown went from a run-first offense in Baltimore, playing both right and left tackle, to a pass-heavy offense in Kansas City, playing exclusively left tackle. I don't think people understand how difficult that is to do and to pull off. Mm-hmm. And from about week 6 of last season on, Brown became a top 10 left tackle in this league because he finally caught stride in this Chiefs offense. And if we know anything about an Andy Reid offense, like I said earlier, most times, it takes time for young players to catch on and find their groove at any position of this offense. The Chiefs, and my third point is the Chiefs can't rely on finding their next left tackle in the draft as long as they're contending for Super Bowls. What do I mean by this? We know how important and imperative it is to have a reliable left tackle in this league. Not in the AFC, not in the NFC, the entire NFL. It's a top 3 position when it comes to overall value in building a roster. The Chiefs haven't drafted lower than 21 since 2018, and even that was due to the Chiefs trading up 8 spots from 29 to get Trent McDuffie in this last year's draft. And if you go back even further than that, you have to go to 2017 when the Chiefs traded up 17 spots to get Patrick Mahomes at 10. Outside of that, the Chiefs have either drafted at 30 or 32 in the first round, or have not drafted in the first round at all over the last 7 years. So this predates even the Brett Veach era. And what are the chances? Here's the thing. What are the chances that the Chiefs what are the chances that the Chiefs find a top-tier left tackle talent or trade down far enough to get a top-tier left tackle talent in next year's draft? Both are very slim in my eyes. I don't see those scenarios happening, especially when we know that they would have to pay that left tackle big money in 3 to 5 years anyway if they're planning on keeping him. What sense does that make when you have a 26-year-old that's proven in both your system and in this league right in front of you? It doesn't make any sense to me. Here's my 4th point. He wants to be here in Kansas City. I know players will say a lot of stuff to get what they want from their team, the media, the fans, etc. But I truly do believe Brown, when he says that he loves Patrick Mahomes and loves protecting Patrick Mahomes, because it's reciprocated back to Brown from Mahomes. There's a very solid chemistry between these two men and athletes, and it's seen and heard from both sides. That's not something that just happens. I believe that Brett Veach and Andy Reid brought Orlando Brown Jr. here to KC with every intention in the world of keeping him in KC for several years to come. They know the importance of keeping Mahomes healthy, and that starts by shoring up the left tackle position. That's going to cost money. Orlando Brown Jr. is going to cost money. But if you want quality, you have to spend for quality. Orlando Brown Jr. is quality, and spending money on him is money well spent. Look at what the Chiefs are willing to offer Trent Williams in his 30s.
Yeah.
They were going to pay this man even just as much as the 49ers ended up paying him. That was record-setting money. And as our guy Seth Kaiser said back in June on this show, they had a blueprint of what they were going to pay at left tackle. So it wasn't like this foreign, unforeseen, unexpected situation that befell them with Orlando Brown Jr. because they knew the next course of action after trading for him they're gonna have to pay him a lot of money. They know the market, they know better than we do. And we know that as it currently stands, left tackles that are up for contract extensions start at 5 years, $116 million. That's the starting point. You don't think that Orlando Brown Jr. is looking for another 10, 15 off that? You bet your ass he is. And he's looking for guaranteed dollars. And I've been saying how long now, guys? He is worth every single penny. Not that he's Trent Williams. He's not better than Trent Williams. He's not even a top 3 to 5 left tackle in the league right now. But as I've been talking with Mecole Hardman, I will say the same thing with Orlando Brown Jr. even more so because of the value, the positional value, and how it's more than wide receiver. Despite what other people say, I know that people think wide receiver is more valuable now than left tackle. I think that's absurd. It's valuable, and the value of wide receiver is going up. But left tackle is still, to my eyes, a top 3 value franchise building a roster. Even more so than what I said about Mecole Hardman and investing into assets and getting the most out of that asset. I think the Chiefs have to do even more so because of what they've given up, because of what they believe him to be, what he ended up becoming and is continuing to become, and because of the fact he's all in. He wants to be here. He wants to play with Patrick Mahomes. He wants to protect him. I think the Chiefs need to give him whatever it takes because they were willing to give Trent Williams at the borderline tail end of his career. He's probably got another 2 years at most probably in his body. So they would have gotten 3 years out of Trent Williams. Why not get 7 years out of Orlando Brown Jr.? I think the Chiefs need to pay him whatever it is because he is quality, and it's going to cost them money, and it's going to be worth every penny in my eyes.
Okay, yeah, we know all these things. We know you got to pay that position. We know he's valuable. We know he's working to become a top guy, and I think he's arguably the most important left tackle in this league because he's protecting the best quarterback in the NFL. That, to me, makes him the most important. He may not be the best, but I think he's the most important. With all that being said, with all that being known, what do you think it is that is holding this up? Because we have about 5-6 days until this has to be done and finished and nailed down. I'm just curious. I know that the agent shit took forever.
Yes,
that was pissing me off, honestly, because I don't like distractions in the offseason, especially in an important role like that, an important player like that. I don't like that stuff.
Yeah,
I like things to be nipped in the bud and taken care of. Granted, that's a normal citizen fan that just wants things to be done. That's my selfish desire. I know how things behind the scenes, it's way more complicated than that. This doesn't seem very complicated because he was already going to be tagged. He was already, we already knew we were going to be. We already knew at the beginning of last season. We already knew when we brought him over here and we gave up all that we gave up for. We were going to have a deal. We were going to want to sign this guy long term, most likely, unless he was absolute shit. Mm-hmm. He performed well, especially the last second half of the season. He performed much better. We knew we were going to extend him. So what is it that you think that's holding this up? Is it the agent stuff? Is it him? Is it numbers? Do you think we're not wanting to? Are we wanting to make this maybe a more spread out contract instead of more of a hefty front loaded one or a back loaded one? I'm just not sure what's really holding this up. Are we going to wait till the last day to get this done? It's honestly
to answer your question as candidly as I possibly can. Yes, I do believe it'll be done the day of. That's my where it's at right now. And here's the reason why. And it's not necessarily even a bad thing. You got to understand, like,
so you don't think there's a scenario where we don't reach a deal? And
I do. That's what I'm saying. I'm still. Remember, I said at the very beginning of my whole take here is I do think that is possible.
Because that would be Orlando Brown doubling down on his talents.
Yes,
that's a risk.
That is a risk. But here's the thing: it could end up benefiting.
If he gets hurt, he's fucked.
Yes, you're right. There's a big time risk there because for both sides though. Because if he gets hurt, he is fucked.
That's what I'm saying.
But if he goes and has an even better season, then he's got to tack on another $20 million under that contract. The Chiefs have to pay him even more, so it's beneficial.
True, but like you said, we were willing to pay Trent Williams that absurd amount of money.
Yeah.
If he gets something similar to that next season because he balled out this year, I'm fine with that.
That's what I'm
too.
saying. I'm not I'm happy for him. I'm saying I'd be, because as a fan, I benefit either way.
Yeah.
Because the Chiefs, I don't pay that contract, they do. So I'm good with them paying him $600 million if that's what it took. I don't care.
Yeah.
My point is, to answer your question as candidly, as directly as I possibly can, I think the what's that called? That cliche of what good business is when both sides don't really leave as if they won. It's a compromise between both sides. I think what's coming down to is it is set back. They're way behind the ball right now with him getting an agent just a month ago. That's something we addressed with Seth Kaiser. That's something we addressed with Charles Goldman from Chiefs Wire. This is something that we all had to acknowledge, that he kind of nixed this whole thing by not already having an agent in place. I do believe if Orlando Brown Jr. would have had an agent last offseason, the Chiefs may have even gotten a contract extension done.
That's what's the most frustrating thing to me is that he's kind of sabotaging his own
Look
situation.
what the Ravens
right
are doing with Lamar Jackson. Even more so. Like, he's a
that's
quarterback.
A much bigger situation.
Yes, exactly. And why haven't they gotten that done? Because the man doesn't have an agent. Yeah. Are you going to negotiate with a player? Like, good luck with that. Like, how do you think those conversations are going to go? Lamar Jackson has no idea how to handle contract talks. He's got his, I think, uncle running his stuff right, or his mom or somebody like that. Like, no offense to them, but they're not agents. You know what I mean? That's why agents are who they are. That's why guys like Drew Rosenhaus has like 75 different players right now in the league he's representing, because they know this dude's going to get you paid. Yep. And so Orlando Brown Jr. and Lamar Jackson doing what they're doing, it's not benefiting them at all in this current context. Now, it could end up boding well for them later on, but both of them are going to have to get agents. And that's why Orlando Brown Jr. ultimately got one. So what I think, Trevor, to answer your question as best as I can, as I think what's happening is, and I don't even look at it as a holdup, I think what they're doing is they're just doing the preliminary discussions now, because it takes sometimes months for you to come to a contractual agreement. Because I believe it was Seth Kaiser that said it on our show, they had a number in place. They said, we got this amount of years, this amount of dollars, this amount of guaranteed. You find an agent, and then you show them those numbers, and then you come back to us. I think what's happened over the last few weeks is that Orlando Brown Jr. and his newly acquired agent have been going over the numbers the Chiefs offered, and they're saying, how do we counter this? Because you know the counter's coming. You know they're going to ask for more money, naturally. It's not like they're going to ask for, you know what, that's too much. We don't want that much money. Yeah. No, you know they're going to come with a bigger number, and what I think is happening now over the next 5 to 6 days is they're going to come to an agreement of, how do we meet in the middle? We're not comfortable giving you this dollar, but if you can meet us here, we'll sign you sign the dotted line right now, and you're our new left tackle for the next 4 or 5 years. I think that's what's going to happen. And knowing Brett Veach and hearing what he's been saying, I wish I could find the audio clips, but it's been the difference in what you heard in the tone, even the tone of what you heard, how he talked about Tyrann Mathieu coming back. Remember when all those talks last offseason, you kind of were like, he was very, we'll see what happens. It's one of those things. Like we started to all kind of feel that, like, oh shit, like this may not happen, and then it didn't happen, and then it starts to make sense because you heard the tone and how like vague he was in his statements to the media about that question. When you've heard him and talked about Orlando Brown Jr., it's very optimistic. You hear the tone. He goes, oh yeah, I mean, Orlando's our guy. We have all intents and purposes of having him here for long. This is what they want. Yeah. They clearly didn't want Tyrann Mathieu here back because they didn't offer him a single thing. You'd be crazy to think that they trade all that for Orlando Brown Jr. for 1 year.
We didn't give up what we gave up for Tyrann.
He was a free agent, exactly. So the point is this, guys.
The investment is much heavier.
And here's the biggest point of all this, where Orlando has all the leverage. Let's be real here. He has all the leverage here. He's a 26-year-old left tackle. This team does not have a replacement. It's not like the Chiefs in the third round went and got themselves a solid left tackle or signed themselves a very solid left tackle in free agency just as a contingency plan. Yeah. There is no contingency plan on this team. You cannot replace him at left tackle right now. I don't care what our guy or people on sports radio studio were talking about Kansas City about, oh, you just throw Joe Thuney over their left tackle.
No.
Why? Because he
You
played
could,
three
but no.
quarters.
Yeah.
He played 3 quarters against the Bengals.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, played 17 games at left tackle, Joe Thuney. I love Joe Thuney. He's not a left tackle.
He's great, yeah,
So
but you
can't
want him to
just
play
replace
his
him.
position. And I think my biggest frustration with Orlando is I feel like you said he has leverage. He has all the leverage, but I feel like he's kind of been abusing that leverage a little bit. It's just kind of this situation's kind of been exhausted because we know he's going to be here. It's just I don't. And then he hired an agent that's never represented an NFL player before. It's just a lot of things that are just like.
Oh, it's very weird.
Yeah,
It's very weird.
You know what I mean? So me personally, this is just my selfish take. I just want, as a fan, going into a very important season and the next chapter of Patrick Mahomes' life, without Tyreek Hill and all these changes already going on, I don't want any setbacks. I don't want any things that are even mental setbacks, let alone physical setbacks. But I just want to get this done for me personally. It could come down to the very last day, and if that happens, it is what it is. But I personally am one of those guys that likes to get things done. I'm sure Brett Veach has been ready to go, like you said. This has been more in his camp, in Orlando's camp, because he has the leverage. He is the player. He is the possibly the next. Our starting left tackle for the next decade, maybe. So that's a very important thing. But I don't understand. Like, I feel like we were ready to pay whoever it was that was going to be our guy. We gave up a lot for him. We've made it known that we are heavily invested in him. I just need to see that from his end as well. That's just what's frustrating to me for his perspective. It's not a Chiefs thing. I think this is all Orlando Brown kind of dragging ass. It's kind of starting to exhaust me a little bit, if I'm being honest, man.
I see it the other way, honestly. I don't think he's dragging out. I think he really wants to be here, and I think he's shown it by himself getting an agent. I think that's shown the Chiefs, like, hey, I'm trying to stay here.
It took him a long time to get an agent, though.
I know, but it shows his commitment to the Chiefs, because he didn't have an agent before, but now that his contract extension is coming, is looming, and obviously he wants to stay here. The Chiefs want him to stay here, but he also wants to make sure he gets paid. So I'm gonna hire an agent. Let's make this shit work, because I want to be here. So I look at it in a positive way. I think Orlando Brown is showing that he really wants to stay here by him going out of his way and getting a agent, which he obviously didn't have before for some whatever reasons he had. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I see this as a positive, and I do think there's probably a deal already in place. We just haven't heard of. I think this is more of a kind of like a suspense thing. It being the deadline next week.
You think they're playing the media right now? Like, hey, let's drop it at 2:39 p.m. on Friday.
Why not?
20 minutes before the deadline.
Why not? It could potentially be the biggest
Hit
contract.
the red button.
Yeah. Why not? It could potentially be the biggest contract is for a left tackle. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
I definitely think this is a leverage play, and the reason why is because of the fact that, again, Orlando knows how significantly valuable he is just based on position alone for this team, because he even said it on NFL Network a few weeks ago when he was on there. He was talking, I forget who he was talking to, but he goes, I mean, they essentially don't have anybody that just can replace me. Now, you can look at it from the naked eye and say, well, why wouldn't you just play for the $16.6 million they owe you on that fully guaranteed tag? Yeah, sure. But to that point, let's say he just goes to camp, there's no contract in place, and he blows his knee out. Yeah, you'll make that 16.6, but your next contract is going to be a third of that, because you're not going to be the guy, or at least people are going to start to wonder about your injury concerns. And the only injury he had last season was a freaking hamstring that he just tweaked a little bit. And they were the thing I love about it is even in that Bengals game before he could go, it was weird. Remember how weird that whole thing was, where all of a sudden he was inactive like 5 minutes before the game. And they said that in the second half, he stayed suited up and was trying to get in the game. They told him, we already scratched you today. Like, he was fighting to get out there even with his injury. So this is the kind of guy that I want protecting Patrick Mahomes. And again, like you said earlier, Trevor,
I want him here
you
too.
saw how significantly better he got. So I think both you make good points about this, about how exhausting this all is. But I think we both know that business can be exhausting sometimes. And I think that exhaustion is going to go away immediately when we see him and the Chiefs agree to a 5-year deal worth $124 million. I think that's the kind of deal you're going to see him get.
It's even less about my exhaustion as a fan. It's just I don't want distractions in the locker room. I don't want anything like that. I don't want any kind of looming conversations that are distracting other than the game, other than preparing for this tough ass division we have ahead of us. This tough ass schedule we have ahead of us. This is going to be a very tough season for us, man. We're gonna have to battle at each week. You know what I mean? So I just want all the storylines to line up. I want all the things to be squared away, no distractions. You know what I mean? So we've already had the Tyreek debacle thing going on with all the talk and and Andy Reid getting perturbed and stuff and not liking certain questions. And it hasn't been a lot of distractions. This is just one of those things I just think we really need to get taken care of. And I really feel like it's Orlando Brown's camp that's holding this up rather than the Chiefs. I think the Chiefs have been ready to go. But again, this is all speculation from our end. We don't know shit. We don't know. We're not behind the closed doors. We're not in the room with the conversations. When the conversations are taking place. So I just want to see him here. I want to see him locked down for the next 5-6 years in a contract, and just get that taken care of, man.
Real quick, I want to ask you guys both, and then I have a final point on this, and we'll move on. Do you guys, because you guys know I believe it's going to get done by July 15th, do you guys believe it's going to happen? Eddie, I want to start with you on this. Do you believe by July 15th at 3 p.m., which is the deadline, is Orlando Brown Jr. signed to a long-term deal with the Chiefs?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it will.
Okay. Here's the biggest reason why I am confident this is going to happen. We all know the three most important players on this team right now, outside of Orlando Brown Jr., positional value. The three most important players on this team right now are Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce, and Chris Jones. Okay? All three of these players have gotten extensions at some point in their career with the Chiefs. Okay? Most recently, within the last 2 years in particular. When Patrick Mahomes got his contract extension in 2020, he was 24 years old. Wasn't even 25 yet, right? It was as soon as he was eligible for an extension, they got him. They got him paid. And now that contract looks extremely team-friendly when you're looking at some of these other guys. And when Burrow and Herbert get theirs, you're like, oh my God, the Chiefs got an absolute steal with Patrick Mahomes. Just wait, it's going to happen. Travis Kelce was 30. He's a little bit on the older side, but he's in the middle. I think at that point was 4 years of 1,000 yards. So we all knew that was common sense, and he's extremely durable, all that. Chris Jones was 26 when he got his in 2020 as well. So these guys have all gotten really good extensions. The average age of these three guys, the most important players on this team, the average age of when they got their extensions was 27 years old. Orlando Brown Jr. just turned 26 in May. And if we know our guy BJ Kissel from Kansas City Sports Network, we all know that this team likes to get guys. If they're confident they want to keep them around, they go and get their contract extensions done before they turn 28, 29 years old. When did Joe Thuney get his extension here in Kansas City? When they signed him, they gave him that big long-term deal. He was 28 years old. Frank Clark, 26 years old. So even the guys that aren't as important as these three guys all got it at 28 or younger, outside of Travis Kelce, who's a unicorn. So I have to believe, just based on what Brett Veach has done, let alone the Chiefs for the last 7 seasons, but more importantly, in the Veach era, which is why I wore this shirt today, because I'm trusting he gets this shit done, based upon what he's gotten done with guys that we know are extremely valuable for the team now and moving forward, I have to believe that if they know this is going to be a distraction, they're going to get rid of the distraction. So I do believe on the Chiefs side of things, it's done. Yeah. They have the deal in place. They're willing to work with him and maybe work, give him a few extra bucks if that's what he's really working on. They can meet a middle ground. It's going to come down to what is Orlando Brown Jr. and his newly found agent going to agree on and bringing their price down a little bit, because they're going for the biggest bucks. He wants, according to reports, record-breaking money at left tackle. I don't think he's going to get the Trent Williams deal, but I do think he's going to get something very, very close to it. I think it's going to be within $10 million in total, not in guaranteed, in total of what Trent Williams got, just based upon the market value alone and the fact of his age and the fact of what they gave up to get him. I think he knows his value, and he's going to have to get them. He's basically, I think what's happening is there is a little bit of a standoff, but it's a friendly standoff. Where it's like, all right, man, look, like if we were having a contract extension right now with all three of us here on this show, let's say you and Eddie had contracts up right now, and I was offering you guys a certain amount, and you guys felt like, you know what, I feel like I'm worth more than that. You could say that, and we could talk about it, and I might still disagree. But in order to accommodate people that I know are valuable to what we do here, I have to come a little closer to what you guys are asking for. Now, don't get no fucking ideas, by the way, boys, but I'm saying, you guys know your value. I know your value. Let's find a common ground of what we define as that value. And I think that's what's happening with the Chiefs and Orlando Brown Jr. It's not that it's going to get hostile. I don't believe it's hostile. I think they have a really good relationship. Yeah. I just think when it comes to dollars and cents, you got to make dollars and make sense, if that makes sense. You know what I mean? So I think that's what's happening. I'm very confident that next week when we're on this show, we are talking about Orlando Brown Jr. being the foreseeable future left tackle. It's shirt up, locked down, ready to go. And I think that we're all going to be very, very happy walking into training camp, which is only a couple weeks away in itself.
Let's go.
So we'll see what happens. In the meantime, you guys hit us up on YouTube, subscribe to our channel, let us know what you guys think. I would love to hear what you guys think about this. Drop some comments, subscribe to our channel. Like I said, we're trying to monetize this thing. We'd love to hear what you guys think about these Chiefs topics in particular. We're going to move off, maybe potentially off of Chiefs topics. We're going to get to the Eddie Hour right now. Eddie Ortiz, while we have you here, because, week to week, it's always a suspense of whether we're going to have our guy in attendance or not. I forgot his phone, earlier today. He had to go out and go get that bad boy out of his car. But nevertheless, he's got his phone now, and he's got his questions. Eddie Ortiz, without further ado, what is in the Eddie Hour this week, my man?
All right, man. Our biggest focus today is UFC 276 because, man, what a fucking card that was this past weekend. Amazing. I haven't seen a card that stacked in a while for UFC. So let's start with the first fight. We're going to go in each individual fight. We'll start with the first one. Pedro Munoz versus Sugar Sean O'Malley. Thoughts? I
have never been somebody that is quick or ever somebody that wants to criticize somebody that gets injured. That's wrong. I just think that's wrong. I don't think that's cool. Whenever we watch football games and we see somebody injured, even if they're not a Chiefs player, I'm like, damn it, because I know that's livelihood. Your family's gonna have to deal with that. You have to deal with it mentally, emotionally, physically, all that. Man, I'm so close to calling bullshit on Munoz's injury, and I know they came out with the reports he had an orbital something. And it's like, man, that sounds like
it barely touched his eye, man.
Like, you saw it, yeah. Like, and I know it was slow motion, so it looks less severe. But even his eye was closed. Like, it wasn't like he hit straight eyeball. Sugar Sean hit straight eyeball, or stabbed him in the eye with his finger. It was a touch, and all of a sudden Munoz just can't see out of his eye. Like, I agree with what Sugar Sean was saying, because at that point, Sugar was dominating that fight. Like, he wasn't beating Munoz's ass. But Munoz could not hit him. Every time Munoz kept trying to kick, Sean would check it. He would check it. He would check it. There was nothing there. And then he would swing, whiff. It was like watching a Mayweather fight. Just could not hit him. He literally landed 0 strikes against Sugar Sean. The card showed that. 0 strikes. And it became a no decision. Why? Because Munoz knew. He knew that the next second, third round, Sugar was going to start putting it on him. Because he had the energy on him. He figured him out. He's the longer, stronger, taller fighter. It was only a matter of time, and Munoz is a long, tenured fighter. He knows, oh shit, I'm about to get destroyed right now. And this is a big card, and this is the opening act of the actual main card. Like, I'm not trying to go out like that. And so now we're looking at this as a potential rematch. And that's a joke in itself, because people are saying that Sugar Sean needs that in order for him to gain that credibility. Bullshit. He showed me enough in that 2 minutes of time of the joke of a fight that he's ready for the big stage. I think Sugar Sean's been ready for some time. People look at him as a joke or a side act because of the way he looks. This motherfucker is one of the cleanest fighters in the UFC today, and he was proving it. He had the composure. He was effective. He was making strikes. He was efficient, and Munoz knew it. I think Munoz quit in that fight.
Yeah, definitely. I agree with you. I think he definitely conceded that fight. That was a strange... he was complaining about checking his cup. He said he hit him low, and he didn't even really hit him low. It was high up, his lower abdomen area. It was a lot. It felt like he was trying to find a way to he had an exit plan the whole time. And it fucked Sean O'Malley, man. This was his moment to kind of get back and get his feet going. And the fight didn't even really happen. It was really, really frustrating. That was the fight I was looking forward to. Out of all these fights in the card, that was the one I was looking forward to the most. And it was the first one on the main card, and I was really looking forward to it. And we were all let down.
Yep.
And it was looking like it was going to be a good fight for a minute. Those guys were kind of having some good blows. Sean O'Malley was doing his whole, mocking shit, in the whole spinning and all that stuff. He's doing his trash talk, and I love it. He's 100% going to be a star in this league, and I think he's got a lot of potential to be a very marketable guy, especially with his pressers and things like that. I think he's got what it takes. But that was that was a massive letdown, man, and the fact that they didn't give him the win either. I get it, but you can even Joe Rogan on the broadcast, he's I don't really see much there. He's I don't really understand what, it doesn't even look that bad, because it wasn't he barely touched his eye. It was just a strange, there's no way that dude lost his vision in his eye. He didn't even get under the eyelid or into the eye. It was he touched the top of his eye. It was yeah. I know, that's why I immediately thought of LeBron James. Remember Draymond LeBron was going out for that layup or that dunk, and Draymond's finger was like literally up inside the eyelid of LeBron James and pushing his eyeball back. And LeBron James was fine. Like, it sucked. His eye was like red, but like, bro, it wasn't even that bad. You know what I mean? LeBron went on to win that series either way. So, yeah, I mean, I don't know. That was just it was a shitty situation for Sean, man.
And he said that was the second time, and they couldn't find evidence of the first time.
Right.
Right. So even his accusations didn't make sense.
Yeah, right.
All right, next fight: Robbie Lawler versus Brian Barberena.
So this is the fight I didn't get to see much of, but I will say that what I did see, it was like two extremely skilled, like old school dudes in a bar, like throwing down. It was exciting as hell. From like the 2 minutes of that I got to see, that was awesome. And I picked Lawler to win, so I was off on that one. But there was like switches and exchanges. I'm like, man, Lawler could just drop him right here with one uppercut. Didn't happen. Barberena won the fight. Congratulations to him. He looked incredible. But I know that both those dudes were hurting for like a month. They're going to be hurting for like a month after that one. Hopefully Lawler hangs it up after this one, because he's what, 40 years old now. I think he's 2-5 now in his last 7 fights.
I doubt it.
I'm sure he won't, because like
he looks
Cerrone,
good.
Donald Cerrone, we'll talk about him in a second, I'm sure. But Donald Cerrone was supposed to retire like 3 years ago, didn't, finally retired this time around.
He's been waiting to fight. He's had to cancel like 3 straight fights.
Cancel his last 3 fights. So I mean, congratulations to Barberena for beating an absolute legend, Robbie Lawler, and congratulations on Robbie Lawler if this is the end of his career, because the dude's won almost 30 fights and has over 21 knockouts in the UFC, which is one of the best ever, and I think that's credible. And I think this is it for him. But yeah, it was an exciting as hell fight. Maybe the most exciting fight of the night.
It was easily the best fight of the night. Me and Eddie was sitting there watching this every 2 seconds. Oh! It was like, dude, it was a true throwback fight. Just a slugfest fight. None of them they never went to the ground once. They were never pinning each other up against the cage much at all. It was just toe to toe. Who could knock who out first? And Barberena got the end of him, got the best of him there at the end. And I didn't really have a guy in the fight. I mean, I was obviously rooting for Lawler just because I've watched more of him in his career. I haven't watched much of Barberena, but man, I am a fan. Barberena's got a new fan to me for sure, because this
Barberena.
I thought he was gonna come out with that song. I was like, that would have been fucking amazing.
That guy, dude, in his personality, he was just a wild man. He was like a caveman. Looked like a bag of milk out there, just jiggling around. But his power, his chin, he was taking blows. He was delivering blows. He had a very unique. He was just constantly moving. It was like constantly. He was constantly putting his hands in Lawler's face, and sneak attacks and little weird moves, and like he was just very creative and very sporadic. And it was just fun to watch, man. Lawler was getting him. He was getting Lawler. I was just waiting for somebody to knock somebody out, and he eventually got Lawler with a couple really good ones, man, and shook him. And he was gonna knock him out clean if they didn't stop the fight. That was easily the most electrifying and best fight of the night, without a doubt.
And I love how Brian Barberena is like, you know how they do the little promos before the fight, before the walkout to the ring are. It was like his last words of that promo were like, "Expect fireworks."
Yeah,
I'm like,
he kept his word, man.
Yeah. I was like, holy shit, they went at it too.
It was a great fight.
Next fight we have Jim Miller and Donald Cerrone, and both of them were fighting pretty much for the UFC record in wins. So thoughts and reactions.
Yeah, like I said, I was expecting Cerrone to hang it up a while ago, because he had just become basically a tomato can. I know he's a fan favorite, but he just became a straight up punching bag for the UFC. He's always going to be a draw. He's always going to be. It's like guys like him, Nate Diaz, Chuck Liddell. No matter what the stage of their career was, people were going to pay attention because people just loved them, and you can't really explain that. I love Donald Cerrone, but Jim Miller showed that even as Jim Miller is 38 years old himself, 39 years old himself, he's just supremely better at this point of their careers. And Cerrone, I'm proud of him for what his career was. He's 100% a UFC Hall of Famer, one of the greatest UFC fighters of all time. But he made quick work of him, and it just sucks to see that's how Cerrone goes. But that's usually how careers end in fighting, boxing, MMA, whatever it might be. They usually end on you getting beat up a lot, and so you're finally, okay, I'm done. So I'm glad Cerrone did it, because at this point of his life, I mean, just go enjoy your life, bro. You've made millions. You're going to keep making millions because he's in movies now.
Yep.
And Hollywood seems to like him. He's got the look. He's got the appeal. He got the fan base. Good luck to him, man. Just go live your life. You got young kids. You got a wife. Go do your thing.
As far as a person goes, he's the best. He's like the perfect fighter. He's the perfect guy for the UFC. He's a American bred cowboy.
Where's lions, not sheep?
He's got
Barrel.
Yeah. I mean, I'm just saying, as far as like an American fighter, he's like ideal. When you think of
It
like
had
an
to be
American,
said.
I'm just saying, when you think of like an American UFC fighter, it's Cerrone, bro. So, and I love him. I've always liked him as a person. He accumulated a really cool cult following. All the cowboy people, like they'll wear their cowboy hats to the fights and stuff. It's a cool little cult thing within. It's like a little bit of WWE fan base kind of thing going on for him. He has his own little cult following, and I love it. I like him a lot, man. I've respected him over the years. Always been a guy that's going to give it his all, no matter what fight, no matter who he's fighting. So much respect to a good career. A guy that's been around for a long time, done his time. So taking a lot of beatings as well. Miller got the best of him in this one. I was waiting for him to hang it up as well. I know he's doing movies and stuff now too, so that's it. Hopefully he's in some decent movies. He's got this new Western coming out. It should be pretty good. Hopefully, maybe not. But yeah, he's a family man. He's got his family to focus on. He's got his 2 little boys. He's got his wife. He's got his life to live. He's got a whole life ahead of him. Yeah, man. Kudos to him. Good for him.
All right, next fight, Sean Strickland versus Alex Pereira.
So this is the one that I'm about as most proud of when it comes to predictions, because we had our guy Blake Schneiders on it last week, and this is the one I went all out on. I said that Alex Pereira was gonna knock out Sean Strickland. Sean Strickland was on a 6 fight win streak. He's very tactical, really good fighter, a dude that was climbing the charts. And Pereira is a guy that has beaten Israel Adesanya twice in the kickboxing circuit. Yeah. So this is a dude that people are really stoked about. He was 5-1 going into this fight very early in his UFC career. People are like, man, that Sean Strickland, he's got as many wins in a row as Pereira's got, fights. So Strickland's coming in with all this experience. The dude knows a jab, mix it up, combo plates, all that stuff. Maybe that might be too much for Alex. No. Alex went in there and whooped his ass, dude. He put that piece right on his forehead when Sean Strickland was already out. Yeah. This dude's for real. And I hope people know, this dude's coming for Israel Adesanya. And I really hope that's the next fight. And we'll talk about it in a second, but this has to happen. This is the guy that could legitimately give Israel Adesanya legitimate fits. Because why? He's already proven it. And it was different. It wasn't UFC style. But he's beaten the man twice and about flatlined the man the second time. I think he knocked him out cold in that second fight. So all credit to Strickland for what he's done, but I think this fight told me who just staked his flag in the UFC circuit, and it is Alex Pereira, and I really like what I saw from him. Yeah,
I mean, that guy, that was my first time really focusing in and watching him fight, outside of kickboxing and things like that. He has that kickboxing history. But yeah, that fight was pretty much over from the get-go. I think we knew who Daddy was from the start of that fight. He was absolutely it was a mismatch, I think, just as far as skill sets goes, and it's a bad matchup. You know what I mean? So yeah, that was the best. That was the best for sure knockout of the night, easily. I think, was it the only knockout of the night? True knockout? I think it was the only true. Yeah.
Of the main card, yes.
Yeah, the prelims were great, by the way. Yeah. There was a lot of great prelims, dude.
There usually are.
This whole fight card was just amazing. From prelims to the actual main event.
It was
amazing.
Yeah, but this fight, I mean, this was a one-sided fight, and I'm definitely looking for. They got to make that fight between him and Izzy happen. I mean, the history between the two of them, him being the only guy that's knocked Izzy out, and beat his ass twice. Yeah. That's something the UFC needs to see, and that's a humble check for Izzy, because Izzy's been, and I agree with Chris Pratt. I don't know, we can get to that, but yeah. So Izzy still has some things to prove in his career.
I know where he's good.
Yeah. But either way, that fight was great. It was a good knockout, good clean knockout. Could have been way worse if they didn't, keep him from hitting him again, because he was clean out. But that dude's a force. He's an up and coming guy. I think he's got a lot of potential as far as his length, his kickboxing ability, his striking is incredible already, and I think he's one of those guys that's going to continue to get better.
Yeah, and I love how he two-pieced him on the way down.
Yeah, Sean was already asleep. He was like, bah!
Double tap. Yeah.
It was like,
right on his forehead, dude.
I was like, damn.
He just sent him home packing with a doggy bag. He's like, here, take your leftovers.
The disrespect. But with him fighting against Adesanya, I don't think it will happen just yet. For the simple fact that he went into this fight unranked. He was fighting number 4, and he wasn't ranked. I would say that he's now probably going to be ranked in the top 10. They might give him one more fight before he can go to Adesanya. I think.
My point though in that, because you're right, that is true. That's fair. But first of all, we've seen the UFC do this many times where guys jump ranks.
Yeah.
And not to, because I know we're going to talk Israel in just a second, but let's be real here, man. There is nobody outside of Alex Pereira right now that can give Israel even a legitimate fight. Look at it. He's getting bored in his weight class. What has he won? Six, 7 straight fights already? He's only fought like 8 times, I think, in the entire UFC. The only loss I think he has in the UFC was when he went up like 15, 20 pounds. So what more can he really do with these other guys? Like, yeah, you want to waste another year of Israel Adesanya's prime by fighting a guy we know he's going to beat? Or do you want to give him, let's say in December or early January or something like that, a fight against Alex? I would vote that, but you're probably right. That's probably what's going to happen. But if you want the big sell, the big draw, don't waste time. Go and get these guys going.
All right, next fight is a co-main event of the night. Alexander Volkanovski versus Max Holloway.
This was actually my favorite fight. Now, if I had seen the whole fight like you guys did of Barbereno and Lawler, I probably would agree with you. But the fight I saw in its entirety, this was my favorite fight. And the reason why is this. It went exactly as I anticipated it was going to go. Volkanovski is proving to us this man is a top 5 UFC fighter in the world right now. He might even be higher than that. This guy might be top 2. Reason why that is because we've seen this man a lot like Charles Oliveira did, where he started out and you could tell he was extremely talented, but there was something missing. He wasn't clicking. And all of a sudden, this man became a deadly just freak. And it's crazy too, because most of the fights that Volkanovski, most of the guys he takes on, he's smaller than, less reach, all these other things, less experience sometimes. Max Holloway, in all intents and purposes, should be winning these fights. And he goes out there and cleans the floor with Max Holloway in a far more definitive way than he did in the previous 2 fights. This was an absolute classroom is in session type of performance from Volkanovski. I don't know if I think that was the greatest fight of his career. This dude's on what now, a 17-fight winning streak?
Dominant.
He's going for that UFC record. I think it's 21 fights.
Yeah.
He's going for that record. I think Anderson Silva has it, if I'm not mistaken. Somebody like that has that record. But Volkanovski has a legitimate chance to put himself in the upper echelon of UFC history because he's running through everybody.
Especially
Max Holloway,
especially in that weight class.
Yeah, even though Max Holloway gave him fights in the first couple, where people thought, even our guy Blake Schneiders thought that Max could have legitimately won that second fight, even though he didn't. We saw the card and Volkanovski clearly won. This one was the one that showed us that third time is not a charm when you fight this man. The great Alexander the Great is really at he's peaking at the prime of his powers. I think he's 32, 33 years old now. And if we've seen, this is becoming an old man's game. It has been an old man games for a long time, where these dudes in their 30s, mid-30s, late 30s are champions. The majority, think of it, Francis Ngannou, Kamaru Usman, Volkanovski, champions, and they're all in their mid-late 30s. Adesanya, 31, 32-ish years old. So Volkanovski can have a run here that maybe we've never seen outside of maybe guys like Bones Jones and Spider Silva. So I think this was him really. I think this card as a whole was a statement card for a lot of guys, because Max Holloway was the last one that could really give Volkanovski that legitimate threat at this point, and he beat his ass. He beat him horribly. So I'm saying right now, Volkanovski, in my opinion, is one of the 3 best fighters in the UFC, and I don't see that changing anytime soon.
Yeah, pound for pound, he's arguably the best right now, up there with Usman and guys like that. I think he's the evolution we've seen of this guy, man. That was an absolutely dominant, clean sweep. I mean, this was the 3rd straight victory against Holloway. And look, and Holloway's one of the greats.
Yeah.
We're not talking about some jobber. This is like one of the greats, you know what I mean? So, and he had no
and he's
chance.
Younger.
That gash on his eyebrow was gnarly, man. That was
that wasn't a gash. That was a third eye.
That was brutal. Yeah. And that would happen in the early second round, and he had to finish the whole fight like that.
Yeah, Munoz would have to have therapy after that one.
He had to go 3 rounds of that thing just bleeding all over the place. So that was, Volkanovski is a force. Pound for pound, just one of the baddest men on the earth right now. That guy is so fun to watch. He's entertaining. He talks trash, and he is just so quick. He's so, the evolution, like I said, the evolution of him, the improvement of his speed, his striking ability, his strength. I mean, taking that, Holloway was trying to take him down. He's like, nah, there's no way you're getting that guy down. He's just so low sense of, he's a shorter guy, low sense of gravity, so damn strong. That guy, man, I don't know who's beating him in that weight class right now.
I don't think anybody. I think he's gonna have to go and like do a super fight or something.
Yeah. So
that was Adesanya's been dominant.
That was a great fight, but kudos to Max Holloway for staying alive. I mean, Jesus Christ, he was taking a beating.
That's when you know it's when somebody gets their ass kicked. When Trevor's congratulating them for surviving the fight, like, dude, congratulations on not dying.
You know, like those T-shirts, like I survived such and such thing. He's like, I survived the third fight.
He should have went on Facebook, Mark safe after fighting Alexander the Great.
Dude, yeah, that was brutal, man. He got his ass. That was the third time around was the worst for him. So and I love Holloway, man. He's been one of the greats to watch, and he's an exciting fighter, electric fighter. But he had no chance from the first buzzer, that first round. Like, it was already, we all knew. Yeah. Like, he had nothing to he couldn't counter anything. He couldn't figure him out.
I don't know if you guys heard, Volkanovski said after the fight in his presser that he said the reason why that second fight, he was giving Max credit for what he did. He goes, but that second fight, I guess like the night before they were going to fight, they had woken Volkanovski up right in the middle of his REM sleep to do that random test. It was like at 3 a.m. They had woken him up, and they said, you have to do random. And it threw him off, and he was trying to get back to his sleep, so he took melatonin. He said he took like 2 melatonins that night, and he said the whole day he was just groggy, off, slow, methodical.
Well, he was getting his ass beat the first couple rounds.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But then he ended up getting the grappling, he ended up getting the significant strikes, leg kicks, all that stuff. He still dominated Holloway in the numbers, but it was a closer fight. And then you saw this time around, like he said, he goes, now you see, like when I don't get interrupted, when I don't have anything going on, you guys saw what I put out there.
Yeah,
and it's the best performance of his career.
We could go the route and say he's just a bad matchup for Max Holloway. I think he's a bad matchup for anybody in that weight class right now. And I think he could move up or down and maybe try to get a belt somewhere else too. If you know,
that'd be badass.
He's so fun to watch, man. He looks like the engineer in Prometheus. Like, that is what that guy looks like. Just a small version of the engineer. That guy is a badass, and I will watch any card he's on for sure.
Well, what's his weight class?
I think he's welterweight, isn't it?
Middleweight.
Middleweight.
No,
yeah.
wait. No. My bad. Hold on. He is featherweight.
Okay.
Featherweight.
Yeah.
So who is in that class?
And it's just crazy too. The difference, like the difference, the body types of him and Max Holloway. Max Holloway has all that length, and
that usually bodes well.
Yeah, and he couldn't even utilize it because Volkanovski was just so fast and strong in his ability to counter everything. Holloway had no chance. He was completely outmatched.
Let's see.
Which is surprising.
I'm just trying to find the rankings for the featherweight.
That weight class.
Yeah, that weight class. So number 2 is Max Holloway. Yeah. 3 is Brian Ortega. 4 Josh Emmett. 5 is Arnold Allen. 6 is Movsar Evloev. Number 7 is Calvin Kattar. Number 8 is Chang Sung Jung.
Every single guy you just named, Volkanovski's beat.
Yeah, none of these guys are.
Number 9, Giga Chikadze.
Yeah.
And then at 10, you got Yair Rodriguez.
Yeah, he's beat every single one of those guys.
I mean, they're gonna have to. He's probably, for entertainment purposes or challenge purposes, he's have to go up or down.
Yeah. I would say go up.
Yeah, I mean, either way, like if he can go get a belt somewhere else in another weight class.
McGregor did it.
Yeah.
Adesanya's done it.
He can do
all
it,
the
man.
greats have done it. They've all done it. And they're going to need to do it. I think he's going to have to do it at this point because there's just nobody out there.
What's after featherweight, lightweight?
Sounds right, yeah. I wish Blake was here. He could break all that down for us.
Like featherweight's
yeah.
I don't know.
All right. The last 5, the second main event of that night, Israel Adesanya versus Jared Cannonier. Thoughts and reactions.
This one is in no way shocking. I didn't think that Adesanya was going to finish Cannonier because Cannonier has a granite chin. The dude can absolutely throw blow for blow. He's got great defense and takedowns. So Cannonier, I'm going to give him a lot of credit for taking this fight because it's a big ask for a guy that started off as a heavyweight and then a light heavyweight and then went down to middleweight. I have a lot of respect for what he's done in his career and how he's transitioned his body and his career. But this was a mismatch, and I think it just showed. Because Adesanya is just clearly the better fighter. He's the taller fighter. He's the longer fighter. He's the more skilled fighter, more experienced fighter. In every box that you could check, he was the better fighter. And I'll be honest with you guys, I think Israel really, like he has over his last 2 or 3 fights, just taken his foot off the pedal. I think if he really wanted to, he could have ended Cannonier in the first round. I really do. And no disrespect to Cannonier, he's a worthy opponent. But Israel's just at a completely different level. It's like you pay respect to guys like we've heard players in even other sports where they knew they could have embarrassed a guy on the court or on the field, but they had respect for that player, so they didn't want to show them up the way that they could have. I think that's what's happening, especially in the fighting ranks, is that there's respect between and reverence between fighters. Because you saw after the fight, there was never a lot of shit talk between these two, and that's pretty. That's pretty rare for Israel, because Israel's the type of guy that likes to talk that shit, and he didn't really do that with Cannonier. And you saw after the fight that they talked about hey man, this was good, this was a lot of fun. Thank you for taking this on, things of that nature. There was a lot of reverence between these two guys, and I think that although it wasn't a very exciting fight, I think Israel showed us that he can win these types of fights a lot like Bones Jones did, where he didn't really give you his best. He gave you a C+, B- effort, and it looked easy. That's just how great some of these dudes are. And ironically, that's when Bones Jones called out Izzy, called out Francis Ngannou, because he's the only kind of guy. Bones Jones is the only dude, in my opinion, to give Ngannou and or Israel Adesanya a legitimate fight at this point. I'm being dead serious, and that's coming from a guy that's made my peace with Bones Jones. I've been done with him. This is a dude that's wasted his prime years for being a complete idiot. And so, even saying that, though, if we were to hear that Bones Jones and Israel Adesanya did a catchweight fight, or not even fight for the belt, just a super fight, that would be a legitimate fight. If I was to hear that Francis Ngannou and Bones Jones finally get their chance to fight, that would be a legitimate fight. But outside of that, a lot like Alexander the Great Volkanovski, what is out there right now for Israel Adesanya outside of Alex Pereira and Bones Jones? But like you said, we don't even know if Pereira is going to get his chance anytime soon against Izzy. So what are we even talking about here? I think this was just another fight that Izzy gets to put on his belt in defense of his belt. And I never really expected much other than what actually took place, which was a unanimous decision.
Well, I mean, by far the most exciting part of the night was his entrance. And
it was
of
badass.
That, I mean, outside of that, that's my problem, though. That's why I kind of agree with what Chris Pratt was saying. Not that Chris Pratt's some expert on this sport, but
which he's not.
Entertainment purposes. I mean, you don't go out there and have that big and you're carrying the ash, the urn that you're gonna go bury this man and incinerate this man and carry his ashes. And then go out there and just have another snooze fest. Really, that's really what it was. I mean, I get it. The person trying to go get the belt should be the aggressor. And I'm
about to start some shit with Trevor. Just hold on.
No, I get it. I get it. But I mean, we just glorified Volkanovski for doing what?
Being badass.
Yeah, and defending his title. So I mean, this is what I'm saying. Volkanovski's already beaten that guy twice, and he still went out there and had the most dominant of the 3 fights. That one. So I mean, I just feel like, to a degree, I get it. You are the one defending your title, and if the challenger isn't bringing the heat, there's not much for you to defend, so you don't have to go full gore and do your whole thing. But I mean, if you're going to be the showman, this is what I love about Conor McGregor. You would never catch Conor McGregor having that kind of an entrance and hiking up his leg and pissing on the side of the octagon and going out there and just throw jabs all night. I'm sorry, dude. That's just not what you never catch the best showman in UFC doing that. Never. You know what I mean? So I mean, you hated on GSP for doing the same stuff, and he wasn't. I'll give you that, because he was never like a big showman. He was never the personality. He was just a winner. He went out there and won fights that way. And now you don't have a problem with it. Izzy's doing it. That's all Izzy's been doing the last 2 fights.
That's the problem. I do have a problem with it. I'm saying that the context actually matters, though, because of the fact that Izzy at any given point can do it.
So could GSP, though. This is what I'm saying, because GSP was a knockout artist to start his career.
Yeah, but that's when he was going against fighters who were far inferior.
Okay, but listen. Okay, but how much would you hate GSP even more if he walked out like the Undertaker and went out there and was just laying on top of people?
He was wearing those Japanese headbands, walking out, looking all cool and shit, and then lay on a guy for 5 rounds.
That was his origin of his training.
Okay, but here's the thing, Trevor. And GSP's last 10 fights of his career, he had 2 finishes. 2! Israel Adesanya...
He wasn't a finisher, though.
But previously, his last 2 fights had 6 straight finishes. So that's my point, is that Israel Adesanya...
But this is Izzy's early part of his career still.
Okay, but Cannonier is not even one of the 5 best fighters he's fought in the UFC. Okay. And he didn't... What I'm saying is he's taking it easy on guys, whereas George is out there putting in his effort and winning by decision.
So why didn't he just put him to sleep like he was gonna? He had the earn and everything.
I can't answer that, and that's why I understand where your frustration, because it isn't a great show. I'm with you on that.
Was GSP?
There's context to the comparison because of the fact that GSP just simply couldn't finish guys.
No, that's not true.
He wasn't doing it.
No, he was a master. He's arguably the greatest fighter of all time. Just because he didn't finish people doesn't mean you don't need knockouts to be great.
I'm not saying knockouts. I'm saying submissions. I'm saying things like that. He only finished 2 guys in his last 10 fights.
He was a jiu-jitsu master, bro. He finished people on the ground. He would dominate people on the ground and wear them out. That was his game. That you don't have to like his style, but that was his game. So is he just jabbing people all night? It's a cool system. I mean,
no, it's not. I don't like.
That's not. That's not who we know
it.
he is. We know he's out there having the spinning elbows and the electrifying fights, and that's how he got here. But now that he's on the top of the hill, it's just kind of like, bro, don't be doing the Undertaker and then going out there and having maybe the most underwhelming fight of the night. That shit was boring. I'm sorry, bro. It just wasn't. Don't hype me up. That's what I'm saying. GSP at least didn't like go out there and like have these like WWE type entrances and then go out there and just jabbing all night. It was just.
You remember? Okay, so
I'm expecting more if we're gonna pay for a fight, especially. I'm expecting more.
Okay, like remember? All right, the biggest fight that I was talking about when it comes to GSP, that pisses me off. First of all, he lost to Hendricks. I don't care what anybody says. He lost to Hendricks.
That was a great fight.
Hendricks beat his ass. Nah. But see, that was the last fight of GSP's real career because after that he was 4 years off and he had that last fight. He beat Bisping, and Bisping was at the tail end of his career anyway. That was just a nice little send off for GSP at that point. But the last true fight of his career was against Hendricks in 2013, November of 2013. He won by split decision. Hendricks outstruck him. He actually had more takedowns than GSP had in the first 2 rounds, so obviously the whole fight GSP did. But Hendricks was dominating him. He couldn't finish that, and that was the last proven fiiter he had.
And you're upset about that, right?
Yes.
Okay, but imagine if you're imagine being upset, right? No, I know, but imagine being as upset as you are right now, and he came out as like the Undertaker.
What I'm saying though is that GSP gave everything he had in that fight, and he couldn't finish Hendricks.
You're talking about the end of his career.
Israel Adesanya was giving 50% against Cannonier. You guys would agree.
You're
with
talking
me.
about the end of his career. This is Izzy's prime.
No, this was the end of his career because he tore his ACL in training.
He was off for 4 years.
Right, because of his knee injury.
I know. It was the end of his career.
No, Hendricks was before the knee injury is what I'm saying. That was his last true fight in his prime.
But that was trending towards the end of his career. No one even expected him to come back.
He was 30 years old. When he fought Hendricks, he was 30 years old.
Okay, he had a close fight. Who cares?
My point, though, is that Hendricks was not even a great fighter. And he couldn't finish the guy. The dude was beating his ass.
Bro, this happens. This happens in combat fighting all the time.
When was the last time you saw Israel Adesanya getting his ass beat? When he went up 20 pounds, to fight a guy way out of his weight class. Outside of that, you have to go back to Alex Pereira 10 years ago. That's the point I'm trying to make.
I mean, but
GSP was never dominating guys and finishing them. Israel Adesanya's out there half breaking it, and he's dominating Cannonier.
They're two totally different fighters, though.
I get it.
You're comparing two different fighting styles.
I'm saying that that GSP, you said it was a knockout artist. Yeah. Wasn't knocking guys out. When he finally started facing competition, Michael Cera knocked him out. Or what's his name? Michael Cera. No, what's his name? Cera.
The actor knocked him out?
Oh yeah, Chris Cera.
Cera. I know that's Matt Cera. Matt Cera knocked him out.
Yeah.
Finally fights a legitimate, real fighter, gets knocked out, and then he goes out there and becomes a tactical fighter, which I respect. There's plenty of great fighters like that. But then it became a bore fest where he would just win by the scorecards, take a guy down and do a bunch of, spin-a-roonies on him, and then it's over.
It's called jiu-jitsu, Lance.
It's called I'm falling asleep. It's called melatonin.
That's martial arts.
Adesanya.
Adesanya by choice, though, is what I'm saying. GSP,
so it's better because he's doing it by choice.
No, I don't like it. I get what you're saying. I get what you're saying.
GSP was still dominating those people, though. They couldn't. Okay, why can't they just get out of his grasp?
He couldn't finish fighters, is what I'm saying.
You don't have to finish to be great.
That's kind of what the point I'm making about Adesanya, though, Trevor, is that he can do it. He just hasn't been doing it because he's bored with these guys.
So it's better if he's doing it by choice, is what you're saying. GSP was doing it because that was his fighting style.
It's not better or worse. It's saying that Adesanya isn't having to do it because he's so much better than the guys he's fighting. You couldn't say that about GSP.
Izzy is a stand-up fighter. It's not like he was taking guys down and doing jiu-jitsu. He was
right. But to that point, though, why would you damage your own body if you know that you're just going to beat this guy soundly?
Defending the title. Tell it to Volkanovski. Why is he out there fighting like that?
What do you think Spider Silva was doing when he was doing against certain opponents? He was just playing with his food. Now, Silva would finish guys, but it wasn't the point where he was out there straining himself to try to make it happen. It's that these guys are so much better than other guys that they're fighting, they don't have to do that, whereas GSP was fighting guys at his level and couldn't finish them. That's the point I'm making.
Why are you saying he couldn't finish them? He wasn't,
because he didn't.
But Lance, you understand, jiu-jitsu is not about finishing someone.
Why can't you submit a guy? If I'm on the ground for 15 minutes with a guy, why can't I armbar the dude? Why can't I rear naked chokehold him? If he's so great at it, why couldn't he do it?
In those fights, you don't think takedowns and
They work, they win.
Because he chose not to finish him.
Right.
Why if you're down there doing? Why wouldn't you
Why
choose
did
to
Izzy?
finish?
So Izzy was choosing not to finish people.
No, because of the fact that you could tell that Adesanya wasn't putting the energy into it. Clearly, GSP was putting the
But
energy.
he's just
into it, 'cause
getting the
on top
dubs,
of the guy.
'cause-
He's on top of the guy wrestling him
but
down.
he-
So you're telling me,
he's just getting points.
GSP, when GSP was defending those titles all those years, he couldn't do what Izzy's doing right now? He was defending titles.
Finishing fighters. Well, he clearly didn't.
Izzy doesn't have to finish because he's the king. He has to be finished. They have to finish him. But GSP had the title for a long time, and he was defending it.
You do see the discrepancy in the talent in the competition that Israel's facing, opposed to what GSP was doing. GSP
Izzy's
wasn't
letting these
finishing
fights
those
go the
guys.
entire round.
What I'm saying though, Trevor, is that GSP was fighting guys that were great in their primes, and he wasn't able to finish them, which is definitive to me. But when Adesanya sees a guy that I'm clearly this guy isn't at my level. He's just gonna
Yes,
be
he's
easy with this
facing a
dude.
guy that was almost 10 years older than him.
Right. What I'm saying is Adesanya is seeing the bigger picture, not finishing guys that he clearly is superior to. He's not putting that energy. I don't like it. I'm not sitting here saying I like
if he's that inferior, go knock him out because you just came out like
I
The
would
Undertaker.
prefer that because that's what Spider Silva and guys like that would do. Like,
Especially if they
remember when
walked out like
Spider
The
Silva fought
Undertaker.
Forrest Griffin and just made him deaf.
But what I'm saying
hold
is,
on.
if you're going to be a showman like the Conor McGregors and all these guys, you're going to come out like The Undertaker. Give us something.
But hold on.
I agree.
If we look back to his loss, Adesanya's loss, was it like 3 fights ago, I believe.
Yeah.
He's had the same fighting style since that fight. So he chose to lose that fight.
No, that's different though because we all know
he hasn't been the same since that loss.
It's
He
just
really
like
hasn't.
Canelo. When Canelo went up a weight class, you're going into another man's domain.
Boxing's different though.
No. I'm just making an example. That there's a reason why Canelo lost his first fight in 11 years. He went up a weight class. There's a reason why Israel Adesanya lost his first fight in a decade. He went up a weight class. It's a reason why McGregor lost to Diaz the first time. He went up a weight
but
class.
McGregor is out there doing what he does
guys,
every
this is
time.
historic. When you go up weight classes, there's a significant disadvantage for you.
But this, you're saying
am I lying?
you're.
That was a
There's
while
context.
Ago, though.
There's context because Canelo had gone up 2 weight classes and he was quote unquote dominating. He just wanted more competition. Went up another.
He's bored.
So he went up. He went up another weight.
Adesanya's
So a lot
bored.
of people are using this for Canelo.
But
Oh,
George St. Pierre wasn't. He was fighting great fighters almost every single time.
he was doing-
so he
and
wasn't
he-
bored.
and
He,
he was
just
winning.
wasn't finishing them. Israel Adesanya's not finishing guys because he's bored.
You understand the goal to each fight is to win, not to finish.
Again, I'm not trying to say I'm
Winning is
supporting
all
it.
that
I don't. I
matters.
want Israel to. I wish Israel would have high kicked a Cannonier in the brain and knocked him out. I'm saying he's not finishing these guys because he's clearly bored.
The GSP thing
wasn't finishing guys because he wasn't bored or he was
my
bored.
whole point I brought up GSP because I knew you were already going to do that. Is GSP
like he's
acknowledged?
my brother or something.
But GSP acknowledged he knew that he wasn't like that showman. Adesanya is trying to be the WWE guy, and he's going out there and he's giving us flat performances, man.
I'm sorry. I was reminiscing on a GSP fight and I fell asleep. I'm sorry.
Did you, yeah, you were downstairs when the main event was going on, so you didn't really watch it live.
Yeah, he didn't watch.
I'm
the
just
whole-
saying,
I
like
watched the fight. It doesn't matter if you watch it
dude,
live. I
it's
watched it.
2 straight snooze fests, man. I'm just being honest,
All
bro.
right.
That's-
So
yeah.
there's that. There's that. But let's go back to Volkanovski. So if he was to go up a weight class, guess who he would fight
Oh, man.
for a title chance?
Charles
Oliveira.
Fuck yes.
That would be
Sign me up for that fight, man. Because that's a dude that can give Volkanovski a legitimate. He could beat him. He could beat Volkanovski.
Yeah, he's far more.
I would probably
crafty
still.
than Holloway's.
I don't know, man. I would probably still pick Volkanovski, but that's like one of those like toss up pick'ems type of fight. Like I don't know if there would be a favorite in that
If he
fight.
can move up the weight class and keep and maintain his speed of his punches,
man.
that's a challenge for man. That's
Oliveira's
that's,
so scary though.
Yeah, Oliveira's so crafty.
How cool would it be for the title? Because you know how it was vacant right now.
Yeah.
And it was because of Charles Oliveira, ironically.
Yep. So Charles Oliveira against Volkanovski for the title.
And I think that I think Oliveira showed that even though the belt's vacant, he's still very much a champion when he just beat Gaethje's ass.
Yeah,
and Gaethje was fighting really
getting
well
him for a minute, man.
And then you saw him drop Gaethje and then put that. Oh, dude, that was a great fight.
I
It was so quick,
wanted
too.
5 rounds of that fight. So
There was
bad.
only There was only like 2.5 minutes of that fight.
Yeah,
I think it
Gaethje
went like
got
2.5 minutes.
submitted,
Yeah,
dude.
dude.
And Gaethje's a world class wrestler.
Yeah.
Like
That's how great Charles Oliveira is. He's still the champ in my eyes. Do you have any other questions about the UFC real quick?
No.
Okay, real quick, I want to say this, because Trevor and I talked about this before the show. So, we talked to Blake Sneeders about this. I want to talk about it real quick with Trevor, and then we can move on because I know you have other things. There is a lot of rumors about McGregor returning from his leg injury. He looks healthy. He's ready to go. He wants to fight again. There's been speculation about Charles Oliveira for him as well. There's been speculation for a lot of different fighters. I just want to put this out there because I want this to be, because I'm still a big McGregor fan. I'm not as big on him anymore. I think his championship days are over. That's my opinion. Maybe I'll be wrong. But I think his championship days are over, so I want to see him come out here and just get these big cash fights, these super fights. How I would like to see it structured, and Trevor, I want you guys to give me your opinions if you have them. I would like to see him start with Jorge Masvidal. I'd like to see him go out there and fight him because Masvidal's still a big name. It's a big, BAMF kind of championship type of fight. People are going to be drawn to that no matter if there's belts involved or not. Have him beat Masvidal. If that's what happens, if he beats Masvidal, then I want to, because I think he'd beat Masvidal.
I'm just gonna chalk it up as a loss.
I'm no disrespect.
That's messed up, man.
Game bread is no longer game bread. Okay, let's be real. And then he can go and fight like a Nate Diaz again. Because why? We've already had 2 fights of Nate Diaz and McGregor. Think about it. Number 3, it's tied 1-1 right now. Diaz choked him out the first fight, dominated him. He dominated McGregor that first fight. And then McGregor goes out there and soundly, unanimously decisioned Nate Diaz that second fight because he was ready for that time, with the weight class. And then this will be the third and final decision because Nate Diaz has been chomping at the bit. He wants to fight again. And we don't know how much longer he's got. He's like 37 years old now. So we don't know how much longer Nate can really go. I'd love to see that rematch. And then if McGregor does win that fight, we can then talk about him getting a chance at a belt. But I want to see him get 2 super fights, back in the swing of things, get that leg going again, get his confidence back up, get his brand back up, because as famous as he is, he doesn't have a lot of UFC juice going right now. I want to see him get his juice back in the UFC in a couple big fights. If he wins them, then you can talk about at 34, 35 years old, he gets a chance at a belt.
I wouldn't call those super fights because those are 2 guys that are trending downward at the end
You're
of the
tell me those aren't draws?
They would draw, but I'm saying as far as like you're fighting for nothing really other than pride. But if he can go in there and fight Oliveira right away, I say do that. I mean, why not?
So you see him die in an octagon?
We're talking about Conor McGregor here, the dude that has more pride than anybody. You're telling me if he has a chance to fight those 2 guys you mentioned, or just go straight to fighting Oliveira and a chance to win a title, he's going to take that title fight.
Real quick, you really believe McGregor could take a year off from a severe leg injury after getting dominated by Dustin Poirier, and he can walk in there and have a chance against Charles Oliveira?
Yeah, let me tell you why. Every single person that wins in the UFC is calling out McGregor. They all want McGregor.
Because they know the money's there.
Exactly. So this is why I think he could get that fight.
But he needs warm-ups. What before he fought Dustin Poirier? Who did he fight?
Don't tell Conor McGregor he needs to warm up.
Trevor, the UFC.
Don't tell Conor McGregor
the UFC's told him that before his leg injury. Think about it. Hold on.
Bro.
Before he fought Dustin Poirier, who did he fight?
But you want to talk about money?
Donald Cerrone. He beat his ass, right? They needed to get him going.
You're talking about money, though.
That was before a leg injury.
You're just literally thinking just about the performance-wise, him getting warmed up.
The entertainment value.
No. But I'm talking about the entertainment value would be immediately. All of a sudden, we have a card where Oliveira is facing Conor McGregor.
Trevor, what's more
That's
entertaining?
the biggest draw of them all.
What's more entertaining, though, just from right now, as it currently stands, with him being on from an injury, what's more entertaining? Him beating a guy that's legendary in the UFC and in street fights, and then gets a chance at a better fight, or going and fighting Charles Oliveira and Charles Oliveira beats his ass?
Let's wait a year plus until this Oliveira fight.
Yes! Because Oliveira's got to fight with Volkanovski potentially.
We don't know that.
What I want to see is Oliveira get his belt back potentially, and then gets a chance to fight a big cash cow like McGregor. It sets up for better long-term success for the UFC.
That sounds like a good plan, but I'm just telling you, in the mind of Conor McGregor, if he's getting called out by all these guys that are up and coming, and they all are wanting a piece of Conor McGregor for some reason because he's still the draw, he's gonna go to the top. Why wouldn't he?
You're going to tell me right now those cards
it's the biggest bag. It's the biggest bag, and if he goes out and beats Oliveira,
if you get McGregor Diaz 3, you're going to tell me that wouldn't set records?
Why would he do that if he knows he can go to the top?
I'm asking Trevor for money, monetary purposes, because we know McGregor's fighting still for money as well. You're going to tell me a Diaz McGregor 3 would not sell its ass off?
If he goes out there and hurts himself again before he gets a chance to face Oliveira, why would he just go face Oliveira?
He already hurt himself when getting dominated by another opponent who's more worthy.
That's my point. So he's losing. He would be losing time if he got hurt again.
He would be losing money. And at this point of his career, that's what it's about. He's already been a champion.
You do realize if he goes and faces Oliveira, he's going to make more money in that fight than he would those 2 fights.
I don't know if I agree with that. I don't know if I agree. There's no belt.
Title fight?
There's not a title fight because Oliveira doesn't have the belt yet. That's what I'm saying.
Okay, but we don't even know if this is going to happen. I'm just saying if Oliveira has the belt at that moment, which he likely could be.
Right, but Oliveira would have to fight somebody else first, Trevor.
Okay, that's Oliveira's problem. I'm talking about Conor McGregor.
McGregor's going to fight in the next 4 or 5 months, Trevor. Oliveira still has to fight somebody
We
else
don't know
before
who
you
he's
get the
going to be
belt.
fighting, but
My point, though, is I can't imagine a pay-per-view would sell more with Oliveira beltless, who doesn't sell fights, as opposed to Masvidal or Diaz. Are you kidding me? You imagine if McGregor fought, if it is announced right now that he's fighting Masvidal or Nate Diaz, those pay-per-views would sell exponentially better than an Oliveira fight.
I disagree
The purists,
with that.
us fans, like us loyal fans of UFC, would buy cards.
So you think-
the casuals would much, he's fighting Nate Diaz? Bet I'm getting that
You
card.
think Oliveira
Who's
has less notoriety at this point than those two guys?
Absolutely. Dude, you're going to tell me Masvidal and Nate Diaz don't have bigger followings than Charles Oliveira? Oliveira's clearly a better fighter. Those guys have, like, casual fans know who Nate Diaz is.
Sure.
Casuals don't know who Charles Oliveira
They have
is.
history. I get
Come on.
that.
I mean, come on.
Okay.
Those are big names. Why do you think Masvidal got the fight against Usman? It wasn't because he was the most worthy opponent. I think he was like 5th or 6th in their weight class. It's because he can sell. And then Usman whooped his ass. He still can get cards, though. Masvidal can still get cards. Why do you think Cerrone keeps getting opportunities? It's not because he's still a great fighter. It's because he's a name. We just got done talking about that. So Nate Diaz, who's been out of the game for 2 years, Masvidal's been out for over a year. If you pair them with another big cash cow, that's going to sell the shit. It doesn't have to be the main event. It can be the second fight of the card. And it's still going to sell. Like McGregor. I think he was the 3rd fight in that card when he beat the shit out of Cerrone. Not even the main event or the co-main event. But it's still sold. It's all about names.
I'm not worried about selling. I'm just saying as far as like, I don't think Conor McGregor is dying for money right now. What I'm saying is I think if he knows he can go fight the best, and if he's getting called out by all these guys who are the best in the game, the up-and-coming guys, he's going to want to go fight them. He's not going to be like, all the best guys are calling me out. I'm going to go fight Nate Diaz or Nick Diaz.
Why not?
Because he could go have that big spotlight fight.
What belt can he fight for
on
right
a main
now?
card?
What belt can McGregor fight for right now? He can't get a belt fight right now.
I'm not even saying necessarily a belt, but if he can go fight Oliveira in like a main card, why would he not take that?
He can't get a belt right now, guys. He's not even ranked. McGregor's not even in a ranking right now.
Okay, but if he goes and fights Oliveira and maybe beats him, that is a huge accomplishment for him at that time.
Or just
being in the octagon.
Would you really pick McGregor in that fight?
No.
Okay,
but that is a much better opportunity for McGregor to change the trajectory of his career has gone.
By
to have
losing
that big,
to Oliveira?
To fight Oliveira on a main card is a much better opportunity for McGregor to get back in the spotlight than it is to go fight a Diaz brother, bro.
I just don't see it that way. But all right, what we got next?
All right, man. We'll go to Beast Ball. First question: is Albert Pujols a first ballot Hall of Famer?
Yes, 100%. Is Lionel Messi a great soccer player? Is going to go down as maybe the greatest ever? Yeah, it's the same comparison. Albert Pujols is arguably the greatest hitter of the last 25 years, like straight up. I mean, from the moment he came into this league, I think him, Ichiro, and Dustin Pedroia, which is so random. I love Petty, but let's be true, he's not in the same class. They're the only 3 guys. Maybe Ryan Howard as well from the Phillies. Like there's like 3 or 4 guys in the history of baseball that won Rookie of the Year and MVP in their first 2 seasons. Albert Pujols, and it's not just his hitting. Yeah. If you go look at his numbers for like 12 straight years, he was batting like 320 and above with like a slugging OPS, all that stuff with like 590, 600. And then he would have 35 to 50 home runs with 115 to 150 RBIs. That alone just puts you in a category almost in your own. Like guys like Miguel Cabrera, great all-time hitters, Barry Bonds, guys like that, Mike Trout, guys like that are only ones you can really compare his numbers to. And even those guys, I think his numbers are better. They'll stand better in the test of time. But it's also the fact the dude was a solid glove. Not a great glove, a solid glove. Yeah. And that's and the longevity, you guys know I'm a big fan of longevity. The dude had literally, it was like 13 or 14 just insanely great seasons. If you can have 13, 14 insanely great seasons where you're arguably the best hitter of your generation throughout all those years, you'd have to give me a reason without drugs in your system as to why he's not a first ballot Hall of Famer, because guys that made the first ballot, outside of maybe 4 or 5 names that I can list off the top of my head, are more worthy of first ballot Hall of Fame than Albert Pujols. He is one of the greatest position players in the history of baseball, and it's without question.
Yeah, it's not even a question for me. It's an easy yes. I think he's already he's been a shoo-in for a while. I think the guy's career is one of the greatest ever at what he does, and hitting the baseball. I mean, he's arguably up there with the best ever. So yeah. It's easy for me.
Real quick, I just because I'm now fascinated by the question. So his first ever season in the majors, He batted 329, right? With 112 runs, 194 hits, 47 doubles, 37 home runs with 130 RBIs. That was him at 21 years old. This dude was already, you can make the case, best hitter in baseball. And from that point on, these are his home runs. So he went 37, 34, 43, 46, 41, 49, 32, 37, 47, 42, 37, 30.
Damn, that's insane.
RBIs, 130, 127, 124, 123, 117, 137, 103, 116, 135, 118. Oh, he had a down year. He only had 99 the next year. Oh, and then he goes back to 105, 64, 105, 95, 119. At 36 years old, he had 31 home runs and 119 RBIs. At 36 years old. Machine. That's why they called him the machine. It's just unfair. It's just unfair.
So Rob Manfred, I don't know if you guys heard, but has added Albert Pujols and Miguel Cabrera to the All-Star game.
Yeah, Miggy, man, beast.
To the All-Star rosters. The commissioner now has the right, under the new CBA, to add players deserving of special recognition. Pujols and Cabrera, obviously, getting the first call-up by... He called them personally, both of them, to invite him to the All-Star game. So that's gonna be fun to watch. Watching Albert Pujols in his last season ever. That is so crazy to think that Albert Pujols is retiring after this year.
Yeah, and I got
End of
emotional.
an era, man.
I almost got emotional for two reasons on this one, because one, obviously, these are two guys that I've watched the majority of my life dominate. You want to talk Miguel Cabrera? I mentioned him. Miguel Cabrera is one of the few guys you can even compared to Albert Pujols when it comes to consistent hitting and production. But I almost got emotional because Rob Manfred, for the first time in fucking forever, did something right by doing this, because this is awesome. Like, baseball fans, I mean, we all love the legacy players. We all love the guys we grew up to. It's sentimental value. Like, one day Mike Trout's going to be that guy. In like 7-8 years, when he's at the end of his career, late 30s, early 40s, Trout gets to be this guy. And the kids that are, 25 and younger right now get to be our age and go, wow, like, I remember growing up watching Mike Trout and Bryce Harper. This is great. They get to be those guys. Like, that's what this is for me. As a guy that grew up watching Albert Pujols and Miggy play the way they've played, I love that they finally established this in the All-Star game, because the All-Star game in baseball used to really matter. And then they lost its luster when they stopped doing the home field advantage thing. I'd love for that to come back, because that incentivizes to play hard in the All-Star games. But this is a really cool touch, and finally baseball did something right, and I congratulate them for that.
Yeah, I don't have much to add to that, honestly.
And sadly, it is announced that Miggy is retiring after next season.
Yeah,
so
it's time. He's 39 years old. He's been bad for about 3 years now. It's time.
End of an era.
Yeah.
For both Pujols and Miggy. That's sad.
Yeah. I think at the apex,
back-to-back years.
I think at Miggy's apex, I think it was, 2014 when he had the Triple Crown, 2013, I think, when he won the Triple Crown. Yes. Yeah, that's one of those years. It was like his last great season. He went out with a friggin' bang, bro, when it came to being a great player. Because Miguel Cabrera, at 19 years old, was batting cleanup in the World Series. At 19, dude is not even able to drink legally yet, and this dude's out here batting cleanup in the World Series. That's just, dude was next level.
So we'll stay in baseball for this question. So Rob Manfred was obviously trending earlier this week for the comments he made, and I'll read it to you. It says, when you acknowledge there's something wrong with the game, that turns you into a hater of baseball. Saying, pretty much, he also said that he doesn't hate baseball. He's trying to save baseball. So I'm going to get your thoughts and reactions to that.
Just when I give Rob Manfred a compliment, 38 seconds later, he shows his ass. How shocking is that? Just like when he was on a good roll and then he calls the World Series trophy a chunk of metal, a piece of metal, whatever they fucking called it.
I don't hate baseball, though.
He can't stay out of his own damn way, man. This is a prime example of that. Does something cool and then shits the bed like this. Look, that's like me saying, hey, I've been building a fire in my living room and my dining room area, and my house keeps catching on fire. I don't know why this keeps happening. Like changing things is a very pivotal thing in all things. I'm not a hater because I'm addressing the fact that's a really stupid thing to do. Hey, my family died of asphyxiation the other night because I built a fire in my house. What the hell, man? I must be a hater because I addressed that. Like, There are so many problems with this game in particular. We've talked about this ad nauseum. You guys know my stance on it. I love baseball. It's my favorite sport to play growing up as a child. I was good at it, believe it or not. This is a sport I adore, and it is being ran into the fucking ground because of idiots like Rob Manfred saying shit like this, building a negative culture where literally the entire league hates the man, and he panders to these owners, so that's why they keep his ass around. But these kind of statements are why I'm so turned off by this game, and I don't follow it like I once did, admittedly so, because of guys like this and saying things like this that are so irresponsible. This game needs a lot of help. Because we just saw a game end in Cincinnati last night on a walk-off balk. That's absurd.
He was fixing his glove.
He was fixing his fucking glove. And they called a balk, and the dude from third got to go home, and the game's over.
It's embarrassing, man.
It's so bad. It's so fucking bad. The Rays lost a game, and the Rays are a team that are perennially in playoff contention.
Yeah.
Now, they're not going to win their division this year because the Yankees are just absurdly great, but that could lose them a wild card spot. A loss like that. And it's just stuff like that that's got to be changed. They need to have pitch clocks. They need to do better things with the way they can get the delivery out and make the games less than 4 hours long and just drag ass. They need to figure out a way to get their sport no longer regionalized, where their star players can actually be looked at as stars. They need to treat Mike Trout and guys like him like Steph Curry. But that's not going to happen until you have people that have bigger minds than a peanut running your league, and that's unfortunately the situation of the major leagues. And shit like this just doesn't shock me. I guess the only thing that really shocks me is that I actually gave the man a compliment before I just shit all over him.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have much more to say to that, to be honest. The game has been, it needs a lot of work. There's a lot of things that need to adjust and work on. Games can't go down like that. It doesn't make you a hater of the game to criticize the game. It makes you a realist. It makes you, someone who's just, being constructively critical of the game that's kind of falling along the wayside of sports nowadays. Soccer's starting to, football and soccer, and basketball, NBA, all these sports are dominating the MLB at this point. They got to make some changes to make the game more attractive and more. They got to evolve, man. All sports evolve. Football has evolved a lot. NBA is consistently evolving more than any other sport. The NBA, consistently tries to change things to better the game, to speed the game up. If any sport needs to speed some shit up, it's baseball. If any sport needs to tighten some things up and get rid of some old unwritten rules that are bullshit, it's baseball. Yep. You know what I mean? And I love the game too. I love going to a baseball game is one of the best experiences you can have as an American. It's just one of those. It's an aura about it. It's something, eating the peanuts and the hot dogs and the nachos and stuff and going watching. Yeah.
Hell yeah.
I mean, shit, right now you can go get some really nice seats at Royals games if you want to go watch some baseball.
Hey, $11,
some bad
baby.
baseball.
$11, baby.
But yeah, that's what I'm saying. So, I mean, it's just fun going to the park, man. Going to the park and watching a baseball game is one of the best things about this country as far as sports goes. It's just something about it. And I love that. And I'm not even a big baseball guy, but I do love that part of the sport. But yeah, there's just so many things they need to fix. Marketing-wise, like you said, marketing their players, showing the personality of their players. Yeah, I mean, Manfred's him being in the trash can of the quotes again is just not surprising at all. But that's all I got, man.
And it's crazy that Shohei Ohtani won MVP last year, and this year you haven't heard shit.
And he's been incredible.
He's
this
been
season.
great this season. He's backing up his fucking
been the
MVP.
best player on his team.
He's probably playing better this season than he even
He
did
was
last season.
year. Yeah. And you haven't heard one. I haven't heard anything about Shohei Ohtani other than if I go and type his name and actually go look into his stats.
Yeah.
Then I will know. It's like, oh shit, he's having another great season.
Yeah.
But like that. Yeah, that's pretty bad. And I think Rob Manfred said that by 2024 they're trying to introduce this strike zone technology thing. So they might have the strike zone into like more of a technology kind of thing. So. I don't know. I don't know if I want human error or if I don't want human error in those kind of things,
Yeah.
Because, I don't know.
They need to make the game more efficient and a little quicker. Like and like you said, a walk-off balk shouldn't even exist. That's not something that should exist in baseball. Like that's just off of a technicality, something that it's just.
It's crazy because
wild.
you've seen him, and he kind of like shakes his glove to kind of like fix it.
Yeah.
And then he's about to pitch, and then it's like balk.
And look, and I
He's like,
want
"What balk?"
to uphold something here. I do want to maintain the integrity of the game. You look, you got to be careful when you're on the mound. Your foot's on that. When your foot is on that rubber, you have to be a statue. I know that's always been the case. You have to make only efficient moves either towards the base where the player's at, or you make it towards the bound. I get that. But if a dude is literally just sitting here and his hand gets... I watched it. His hand moved. And it wasn't even the hand with the ball. Because, again, the ball was in his throwing hand, and you see the glove move. I have a hard time believing that should be a deciding factor of a game. I have a problem with that. And I'm not even trying to directly blame Rob Manfred for that, because that obviously predates him. Yeah. But some changes need to be made, and instead he's making stupid-ass statements like that.
Yeah, and what I love what the MLB did
like you're
this year...
against progress? What the fuck, man?
What I love what the MLB did this year is kind of protect teams from other cheating teams, I guess, from having like people up in it's having the little buttons on their knee pads for the catchers and the pitchers receiving it like vibrating in their wrists.
It helps them stealing pitches.
Yeah,
they're stealing.
It prevents stealing pitches.
Yeah, man. I think whatever they got to do to make the game better, because this product is dying right now.
Yeah. And
MLB is dying right now.
And they also have I don't know if you've seen it, but they also, when they do the reviews, they come back and say the result of the review, kind of like what the NFL does. That's what the MLB is starting to do. There is some games that do it, some games that don't. They're still kind of trying it out in different games, which I personally like that.
Real quick, and I know we've been really going on this, but whenever we talk MLB, this is what happens. But this is a way, and this is a suggestion I haven't told you guys yet. I think a way the major leagues could really save themselves and save face and kind of garner some casual fans is by appeasing fans and what we like that hasn't happened yet. They could be a revolutionary league by doing this. Have their umpires do interviews after games like players. People think that stuff's crazy. It's actually not. Because you know why? First of all, we already know these guys' names. They already have tendencies. We know Angel Hernandez is by far the worst official in the history of the MLB, yet he's still employed. But he never has to take account for what he does. Why don't we do that? Have an Aaron Andrews or somebody on the sidelines, a Pam Oliver, run to the umpire, ask him why he made a certain call. What happened in that moment when you blew this call? That would up the integrity of the game. Fans would love that because we already despise these guys 95% of the time. And if you watch John Boy Media or any of these other shows that expose the horrific officiating that baseball has and continues to gradually have more and more, put these guys on the pedestal both positively and negatively, where they have to account for their own actions as opposed to being protected by this bullshit that the leagues continue to throw in front of them so they don't ever have to account for it. We know their names, we know their tendencies, let them speak for themselves. That, to me, would up the entertainment value as well, because then we can say, oh, I'm going to hear what this motherfucker has to say. He just called that guy out in first. He beat that by an entire first step. What the hell? I want to hear what he has to say. And that causes more of a certainty of knowing what they were thinking, why they were thinking. Because I'll tell you, one of my favorite memories as a baseball fan was when Galarraga for the Tigers was throwing that perfect game. And then I forget the umpire's name, but he had the big mustache. He's a country singer. All this. He called the guy safe when he was out by an entire step and ruined the perfect game for Galarraga. But you know what I loved about that moment? Is that umpire immediately before that game was even over went to Galarraga with tears in his eyes, was vulnerable with him and said, I fucked this up for you. I am so sorry. And there was this beautiful moment. And to this day, that's no longer looked as this, oh my God, what a fucking idiot. No, we saw the human. We saw the umpire say, I fucked up. I was wrong. And he went there and admitted to him crying. That was a human moment. Baseball needs that stuff. We need to see the human of these guys because we see that in basketball. We see that in football. Those leagues have their own problems, but baseball's like too proud. Yeah. Too proud to stand by the human vulnerable side because we know what baseball, these guys are all a bunch of fake tough guys. Everybody clears out. No one throws a punch. You know, a bunch of fake tough guys. Because baseball lets their guys police, like the NHL. NBA, you can't do that. NFL, you can't do that. You get flags thrown out, suspensions, all kinds of shit. Yeah. Baseball, a lot of times, they let them police by beating guys, fighting, whatever. Yeah. Let these guys be human then. Let the umpires be human. I would like that. That's just my little tidbit.
All right. Baker to the Panthers. Thoughts?
Oh, boy.
So I know this is like a big story right now in the NFL. It's every show's talking about it just horrifically. Or it's so exhausting at this point because I'm not even sure that Baker Mayfield's going to be the starting quarterback for the Panthers. But I will say this. I found this interesting. I thought about this and I posted it, and people were like, holy shit, I didn't even think about it. Baker Mayfield went from being a top or bottom 5 quarterback in the AFC to a top 10 quarterback in the NFC. Legitimately. And he may not even start. Think about it. I looked at the NFC right now as it currently stands. I have him right around 7th or 8th best quarterback in the NFC. How fucking wild is that? That's how bad the NFC is right now at quarterback and just teams as a whole. But we can talk about that as the season progresses. But I'm not sure. Trevor, I told you this last year. I think Sam Darnold's the more talented quarterback.
He is.
He is. He may not be better.
He's more talented.
He may not be better.
He's got a better arm.
He's had so many more disadvantages than Baker Mayfield's had. Yeah. One, believe it or not, I'm going to say something crazy. The Browns have actually been a good team for the last 3 years. Baker Mayfield's inherited a great running game, awesome receivers that he underutilized in Odell Beckham Jr. and in Jarvis Landry. Had a great defense. Talented top to bottom, got himself finally a good head coach in Kevin Stefanski, still couldn't capitalize. Sam Darnold is the more talented, bigger, stronger, faster, more mobile quarterback, and he's younger by almost 2 years. So I think Sam Darnold, now knowing this offense, he's been with the Panthers now for an entire year, and they were good to start the season, I might add. I think he's going to win that quarterback battle. And I'm not saying it's going to last all season, but the Panthers didn't give up anything to get Baker Mayfield. They gave up a conditional 5th-round pick in 2024.
That's so crazy.
So they can literally just have him as a backup quarterback. I think he's going to make like $10 million this year.
He didn't want to be a backup in Cleveland. Now he's going to be a backup in Carolina.
On an even worse team, exactly. So
I mean, he has a chance to win that spot. But
I think he has a chance.
Yeah.
But I think right now Sam Darnold's got the upper hand.
It's so late in the offseason, you know what I mean?
In July, dude.
Yeah.
And he's going to a new team, doesn't know the system. This team's in complete disarray. They have no idea like what their team looks like. Matt Rule's on the hot seat before the season even begins. I think as it currently stands, Sam Darnold's going to win that quarterback position.
Well, what makes this even better is week one, the Browns face
the Panthers. In Carolina.
And since 2018, the two number one quarterback, as far as quarterback rankings, as far as interceptions thrown goes, number one is Sam Darnold since 2018. Number 2 is Baker Mayfield. So they have the 2 most interception-prone quarterbacks in the same team.
And you know why Baker Mayfield? You know the reason why Sam Darnold passed Baker Mayfield is because he played more games last season.
Yeah. So like they're like battling it out.
Because Baker missed like what was it, 5 games last season? He missed like He missed games. He missed games last season. Remember he had maybe a couple games.
I think
but he was
2 games.
leading.
Yeah.
In last season, he was leading all quarterbacks since 2018. Then Sam Darnold passed him.
And I seen this funny fact too. It says the Browns will be paying Baker Mayfield $588,235 week 1 to try to beat the Browns. Because he's still gonna be under their payroll. So yeah, man, this story. And I like Baker. I like his personality. He's a very marketable guy. And this just goes to show more to your MLB point. Like Baker's done jack shit in his career, and the MLB or the NFL has him on all kinds of TV spots,
everything, yeah.
all these things, and they're marketing trash players in this league. You know what I mean? So that just goes to show you the difference there between those two juggernauts.
They know how to encapsulate personalities.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And Baker, and he has a great personality. He does, but he has that Brett Favre personality, but he thinks he's Brett Favre and he's not.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So. Yeah, this whole situation, I feel bad for Baker in a way because he did get fucked over by the Browns, I'm not even going to lie. But the Browns are taking up an opportunity to possibly have a generational talent in Deshaun Watson, who eventually will play football probably at some point. Who knows when? That's a whole other conversation there. But, I mean, if I had a chance to get Deshaun Watson over Baker, I'm doing it too. I'm not going to act like I wouldn't. But, yeah, Baker, he has a chance. This is the shit bowl over here trying to figure out who's going to win this starting spot. Granted, I do agree with you that Sam Darnold is the better talent. He has more of a raw ability to make plays and just a better athlete. But Baker's a decent quarterback if you want to win some games. 8-9 games maybe with that team, maybe. But yeah, he has a chance in that division. But. I think this is nearing the early end of Baker's starting career.
How inept the NFC is with quarterbacks. You obviously have like your Matt Stafford, your Aaron Rodgers, Tom Brady, Jameis Winston. Like it drops like significantly from like those first 3 guys. Then it goes to like Jameis Winston and Dak Prescott, maybe Jalen Hurts.
Yeah.
That's like what 6 right there. Then what? Like really think about it. Like Trey Lance probably will be. I'm big on Trey Lance, but. Jimmy Garoppolo, who's better right now, Baker Mayfield, Jimmy Garoppolo? I don't know. Very like
They're like the same
neck
guy.
and neck. So like he's at worst like 7th, 8th best quarterback in the NFC, and in the AFC he was like, the 17th, 18th best quarterback in the.
I would take Baker over Jimmy just because I feel like Baker's more aggressive and actually will try to make plays at some point. Jimmy G just is like, fuck it, I'm just gonna fall down. Like at least Baker will try to make plays. Jimmy just kind of plays scared football.
Throws a lot of picks though. He
for
throws
sure.
a lot of picks.
But I would take the aggressive guy before I would take the guy that just lays down.
All right, last question. Big news story. Obviously, some news that it's been happening as we've gone on, but as of I believe a couple days ago, it was by the New York Post. I think they released a story on this, and it is said that Vince McMahon paid over $12 million in hush money to several women in a span of like 15, 16 years or whatever it was in the WWE. Thoughts on that?
These it's amazing living in this time because guys like this 20, 30 years ago, not even maybe that, were getting away with this stuff quite frequently. And I think that Vince McMahon comes from that generation of guys that are used to getting away with stuff like that. This is why I've always said that athletes and people with high platforms or high levels of attention live on such a different microscope than they ever have before, because you didn't have social media, you didn't have TMZ, you didn't have everybody gawking you at all periods of time. You could break free from all this and get away with a lot more. So your image was oftentimes more upheld. Well, this is all just exposure that's coming through all the things that are now accessible. And it's interesting. I would like to know like how they got this information about Vince McMahon, because of the fact that it was confirmed, according to what I read, that these women did accept the money. So when, like, there had to have been like an NDA, you know what I mean, put in place. So how is Vince, like, I feel like Vince McMahon is as crazy and sick as this sounds, can maybe potentially get away with this if he if it comes out that a violation of the NDAs came out. Mm-hmm. Now, if he didn't put NDAs on this, he's a fucking idiot and he deserves everything that's coming. It's just crazy how many times we've seen powerful men at the end of their lives, because Vince McMahon is in his mid-70s now, like he doesn't have probably a lot left. It's crazy how like some of these high profile men, as they get in their advanced ages, this shit starts to come out. Because it's almost like there's like this less fear of being able to be vocal. Like look at Bill Cosby. I mean, for 40 years, people looked at this dude as just this model citizen. This is how you raise,
America's
listen to
dad.
that man. That's a man how you want to raise your kids. Listen to that dude. And this dude's out here sexually assaulting women throughout the decades. Yeah. Exactly. Straight up raping women. Drugging them, raping, all this stuff. And this is a high profile man. Same with Vince McMahon. I'll be honest with you guys, it doesn't really shock me that this happened, because we had heard stories throughout the years that him and Linda McMahon were basically just like a prop marriage where they just kind of stayed together to make, look presentable, but really he was fucking around, moving around on her all the time. So it doesn't shock me that this happened. It's sad that it happened. I don't know how the WWE is going to be able to bounce back from this and retain him if he ends up coming back as a CEO. I can't imagine, because one thing you've always told me, Eddie, because you pay attention to WWE much more than I have over the last decade plus, is that it really moved more towards that family environment. The John Cena era became more of a PG version of what we knew as the Attitude Era, which was raw and just kind of despicable in some ways, but it was fun as shit. Yep. The WWE now has been more of, like I said, more of a buttoned up, tidied up, kind of family safe kind of environment. How are you going to bring that back to the equation if in fact that's what you want to maintain as a perception of your brand, of your product, is your image? Yeah, exactly. If you're bringing him back as your CEO, and let's say a year from now, even if it all gets settled, I think Vince McMahon's going to have to probably just retire and let Triple H and Stephanie and them run shit. Even though Stephanie herself had some horrific statements about the whole 9/11 comparison back years ago with her family. We've gone through just as much, or whatever she said in that video. I watched that the other day. Holy shit! But yeah. So needless to say, this is going to be a massive influx movement for the WWE, and I think their best course of action, if they want to maintain their brand and, like Trevor said, their image, I think Vince needs to step away completely, and I mean permanently.
I don't think there's a way he recovers from this in today's age. I just don't think there's a way he recovers from this. That's what's a gift and a curse about the time and age that we live in, was where nothing is really, if anything happens behind closed doors, it's only a matter of time before it gets exposed. There's just so much information available now, and so everyone has a voice. Back then, back in the early days, paying people hush money, you got away with it easily. Not everybody had a voice. Social media wasn't as rampant as it is now.
Yeah.
Nobody can just go make a TikTok video and expose you. Nowadays, no one's safe. For good or for worse.
Yep.
Whether it's false allegations or it's true, anybody can have a voice and anybody can try to ruin you. But the fact that hush money was delivered, hush money was accepted by these people, that hurts the argument of the ones that are accusing, the accusers. And the fact that this is coming out so late, it's yeah. And we don't know all the details of what exactly happened. Was the hush money at the time him just trying to keep it from his wife? From finding out, maybe so she didn't divorce him or something, because we don't know. I'm not going to pretend that I'm involved in their lives and I know if she knew he was sleeping around or not. I'm not going to act like I know. You said there are prop marriage, which possibly a lot of powerful and wealthy people obviously tend to have agreements on things, especially for men and their needs, whatever. But yeah, I don't know if the hush money was to keep the women's mouths shut from telling his wife, paying them off if they agreed upon that, or if it was just maybe he did something, because I don't know if he truly sexually assaulted someone against their will. That's an entirely different thing. I don't know if that's the case. I don't think that's the case.
Sexually assault somebody with their will.
You know what I mean?
You can go a step above what they wanted. Like, they could have invited it. They could have invited it, and you took it a step further.
No, this is, as to my understanding, this is not the people receiving the money bringing it up. It's
okay. See, that's what I was curious about.
It's WWE who found hey. What happened?
So this is an internal.
Oh yeah,
it was an internal investigation. It's like what?
That's what
where
the
fuck is this money?
Yeah,
it was like so they were trying to try. Yeah, kind of like an audit. They were like, well, where the fuck is this money?
We got millions of dollars missing here, buddy.
Yeah, like several. So then that's when it started coming out. It's not that the people that he had sexual actions with are the ones that came up. I believe, as to my understanding, these are people he had an affair with.
Okay.
And he just paid them to not say anything publicly.
I'm not gonna say that's not a big deal.
No, it's
but
not.
That's much lighter than what they're kind of making it seem like.
So they're making it seem pretty bad because it's technically hush money.
Yeah,
that's why it looks
from his
so
wife,
bad.
Really?
Yeah.
Because if she divorces him and
because there were affairs, they weren't
gets
him.
Half his shit most likely.
He wasn't going out there and raping people. No, it was as to what I read, it was affairs he was having. Okay.
I'm not saying that's acceptable either. I'm not encouraging any of those actions, but I'm saying that is much different. Like the Deshaun. I mean, I'm not going to mention Deshaun Watson, but like a lot of issues that we've seen, like with Harvey Weinstein, things like that. Like he's not like giving people jobs for them to suck his dick and shit like that. You know what I mean? So that is an affair. These are different things that he's done. I mean, I think it's more. I think the WWE is making it more about the money, if anything.
Yes, and that is why you still see Vince McMahon at WWE events. This is not
as if he couldn't pay that back.
Like, it's this is not about sexual harassment. It's not about raping anybody. Okay. That's why he was at the UFC event. I'm sure if
maybe
this
he feels like he can get away with this. Maybe there's nothing.
Well,
really
let me ask you,
too
Eddie.
damning.
You're the one that's closer to this situation than any of us three here. What do you think is going to happen? How do you think this all gets resolved? And what do you think Vince McMahon?
I think it'll get resolved, and I think he will just pay that money back if anything.
He'll still be around
because it's an internal investigation from WWE. It's not even like the federal government's involved. Nobody's. This is just a investigation within WWE.
Right.
So if anything, he'll probably pay the money back.
But from an optic standpoint,
they'll just be like, all right, whatever.
Yeah.
Optic standpoint, I mean,
because I remember
there's really nothing negative. Like, how can I? It's not that it's not negative.
It's damaging to his image, though.
Yeah,
significantly, if you ask me.
I wouldn't say so because every time he's come out after the first news came out, he comes out, he gets the biggest cheers he's ever gotten in a long time. A lot of people still fucking they yell his name, chant his name.
Yeah,
it's a lot bigger now than what it used to be. He never came out really that much, and now he's coming out almost every week.
That sounds like he's trying to save his image.
I mean, didn't the guy cheat on his wife and pay her off and then become the president of the United States? I'm just saying, like now that stuff happens. Yeah. So I mean, I think money and power can overcome anything now. I mean,
I just think because money was involved. I think money was involved to silence. It looks bad, but for himself. But I don't think he broke the law in any kind of way,
Okay.
if that makes sense.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. I wasn't too informed. I didn't read too
And if
deep
that,
into
you see
it,
what I
so-
mean, though? Like, it's not bad because he didn't break the law. It's just like you guys said. It looks bad on
He just
bad on
slept
his
with- he
image.
slept with some people.
Yeah, it just looks bad on his image, but it is. I mean, yeah.
I hear you. So I think if this would have happened 24, 25 years ago in the Attitude Era, I don't even think this is a big story. I really don't, because cancel culture wasn't around at that time.
Yeah.
Social media
That's-
wasn't around at that time.
Yeah.
And also the brand, I'm not saying that was their brand. I'm saying, though, the brand back then was a lot more, I would say that it would have been a lot more
was wild.
subtly, it wouldn't have been as harsh of a story.
Yeah.
I think they would have probably even turned it into a fucking story.
Dude,
on
imagine
their-
some
in
of these
their-
wrester stories they got going on
campaigns
behind the
here.
scenes, dude.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
all these divas and stuff.
Oh, it's
like,
a very dirty
I can
business.
imagine what was going on in the Attitude
I don't
Era.
know. I think we all can agree here that this sucks. If in fact anybody was harmed
Yeah.
during this, some people were paid a lot of money, so I know they benefited off of it. But if he raped anybody, if he did anything terrible,
If anything like that comes out,
Yeah.
fuck this dude.
yeah, straight up,
So
man.
this is more about money missing than anything.
Yes.
Okay.
This is just accounting for the money that's
I think
not
he's.
there.
I think he's gonna be fine then, if that's the case.
Yes.
I mean,
From his-
he's one
from
of the
his
wealthiest
own
dudes.
company, so-
Yes, he's one of the most wealthiest dudes in this country. Like this, America's gonna forgive this guy.
These conversations are so difficult because, like
Yeah,
what you
I don't
said
know all
about
the
like not
details.
knowing like the intricacies and
Yeah.
details.
Yeah.
It's so difficult, like, to really put a stance on it. Like, naturally, I stand with victims. I'll naturally stand with a victim and say, hey, look, this guy fucked them over or did something terrible to them. You should serve the punishment. Like we talk about Trevor Bauer. If there was evidence that shows or indicates, like, from multiple people, this is why I'm so hung up on the Deshaun Watson thing. Because we could sit here and say, well, there's zero evidence of something being done. But when there is a number of people from across the country that say the same thing and the stories, like, corroborate with other
You got to
stories.
maintain your veil of ignorance.
That's-
Like you have to.
yeah.
I can't pretend
It's
I know.
hard, yeah, it's hard to go,
something.
nope.
Absolutely.
66 women did not say these things. 24 did not civil suit. Like, I can't do that. I can't predict it. With Trevor Bauer and guys like that, when it's one person, they're making multiple accusations of multiple accounts. I'm like, wait a second. Like, it's just it's really tough to make a real definitive stance when the story is still in motion. You know what I mean? Like, this Vince McMahon thing still feels very fresh. So I'm willing to sit back
It's gonna
and look
take
at
some
it.
time.
But I gotta be honest. Like I said earlier, it doesn't really shock me knowing the kind of person we've heard stories about when it comes to him being in the business. Like, I imagine his personal life probably can be a little dark and sinister in itself.
I'm sure a lot of billionaires out there do this. shit.
Bret Hart alone's told us
I'm sure.
stories.
I'm sure the IRS is gonna be like,
There's a
hey,
guy. Yeah, there's a
give me
guy
the
named.
taxes for those 12 million though.
Yep.
There's a guy named. There's a guy
You
named.
know what
There's
I
a guy
mean?
named. There's a guy named Jerry that owns the Cowboys. That's been a part of a lot of controversies with sexual things, and he's
The dude from
just
the
fine.
Patriots. I mean,
Robert
it's-
Kraft.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think he'll be okay. I think he'll.
And those are much worse situations than what
Exact.
as far as what McMahon's dealing with.
We gotta see what more comes out of this, but as of right now, I think he'll be okay. I'm sure he'll be able to save image. If any of his image was really damaged, we've seen him at UFC. We see him at WWE. If his damage was really, really hurt,
wouldn't be showing
he
his
would
face.
not be in public,
Yeah.
or he would not even be at WWE events. I hope this does help with WWE and not just keeping him as an owner, not as a president or CEO making decisions for the company.
Yeah.
I think that's a route that WWE should definitely take into just go home, retire, do what you want to do, whatever. If you want to pay more people hush money, go ahead, do that. Do it
Right.
with your own money.
Yeah.
Leave the WWE with Stephanie, Triple H, and bring
I
back.
think that's the best course of action, just as a whole.
He
no
can still
matter
be.
what the
He can still
results
be
are.
involved.
Yeah,
and
and bring
make,
back
make
Shane McMahon.
appearances.
Yeah.
Because
Shane O'Mac.
Shane O'Mac left because of differences. I actually went to the Royal Rumble
Yeah.
in January, so there were some differences between Vince McMahon and Shane McMahon that day.
Yeah.
As the Royal Rumble changed throughout that evening.
Oh, yeah, I remember you telling me that. Yep.
So Shane McMahon said, "Fuck it, I'm out. I'm not gonna deal with this shit."
I can't imagine Vince is an easy guy to work with.
Yeah,
anyway.
so he's like, "I'm out. See you guys. It is what it is." I really do hope that he steps away from the creativity mind from WWE. He doesn't take control of that shit because his product is starting to go to shit. Because if it ain't his way, it ain't no other way.
Yeah.
So I hope he lets other people be more creative, create more storylines, create better storylines. So I hope this is a blessing for WWE and he steps away. So we'll see what happens. But yeah, that's it. That's it for me.
That's a great Eddie Hour, as always. We appreciate your efforts, man, in finding the storylines out there that we need to discuss, that we may not discuss the main portion of the show. That's why we have this going. Guys, we have one more order of business to attend to. Guys, what's it called? Hold This L. Each and every week, we finish off each and every episode in a series of L's in the world of sports. Whether those L's are friendly or unfriendly L's in the world of sports, we promise you, whoever's holding those L's deserve those L's. Mr. Let's go right back to you, Eddie. Mr. Eddie Ortiz, Mr. Yo. Who's holding the L for you this week? And is it F1?
It's not F1.
Okay.
So this is a L and a W in the same.
That might be. We got a hybrid L. I like this.
In the same story. So who gets the L? Seahawks fans. Andrew Luck.
Oh yeah, I like this.
Who gets the W? The U.S. Open tennis.
Man,
this is a good one.
So SportsCenter posted a clip of a serve between the legs, and they posted this video with the caption, "This was cold-blooded." As to what a Seahawks fan responded to, "Not a sport." To begin with, I don't know how tennis is not a sport because all they do is cardio.
Yeah. There's a ball,
and it's cardio for like 3-4 hours.
Apparently, that person's never tried to play tennis before.
How many? Real quick, how many non-athletes do you guys know that is really, really good at tennis?
Not many.
That's right.
None.
Yeah.
Because I'm 6'8", 300 pounds, and I can't play tennis. So
it is.
Oh, tough. I'll fucking die playing tennis, dude. I couldn't even last a set.
Oh, dude.
Let alone ping pong. Shit.
So yeah, not a sport. A Seahawks fan, obviously. As to what the U.S. Open tennis responded, this is their verified account. And they put, "Not a sport," says the person about to watch 17 games of Drew Lock at quarterback. Fucking
So
Drew
good.
Lock was at
said
home.
fuck you, but
Yeah,
okay.
Drew Lock was at home. Yeah.
That's how you say "fuck you."
Yeah, Drew Lock was at home, watching TV, probably eating some protein bars, just minding his own business.
Yeah, listen to Young Jeezy.
Yeah, Young Jeezy, and then his phone starts blowing off. It's like, what is happening? And then he reads what happens. It's like, jeez. And then the
crosshairs.
Yeah. It's like, what the fuck did I do kind of thing. It's like, and then the Seahawks fan responded
Catching
with
strays.
ratio plus your event is poverty. That's what the fan replied
What
with.
does that even?
So what the U.S. Open tennis did, this is funny. They replied to his comment with a picture, a rank, and it says top 40 quarterback countdown. And they say, "Remind us again, we're not a sport. Aren't there only 32 NFL teams?" And in the picture, Drew Lock is ranked 40th.
It's a burn, man. That is a burn.
And I mean, the Seahawks fan went back and responded, "Geno Smith is our starter most likely, pal. And great, we still have a talented roster and are drafting C.J. Stroud next year, but go on." That's all he could say.
God, dude. Just digging that grave
Yeah,
deeper and deeper.
He said Geno Smith is my quarterback. Yeah, because he's way better than Drew Lock.
He's not 40. He's like 38.
I don't think he's even on here.
Probably not.
Yeah, I don't think he's on here. Yeah, so, he's 33. And there's 32 teams.
It's looking good for the Seahawks, guys.
Looking real good.
So, that's why I say simultaneously, this is a L for Seahawks fans for Drew Lock. And fuck, apparently Geno Smith catching the L2 in this one.
Yeah.
Fuck. And then U.S. Open tennis, you gotta hold that W, bro, because that shit was amazing. But to the rest, you got to do me a favor and hold this L.
That's good L, Eddie. I appreciate it. Trevor Toole, who's holding the L for you this week?
All right.
Is it a hybrid?
I'm just gonna no. It's not. It's pretty straightforward. I'm just gonna read this article real quick. Von Miller joined the Buffalo Bills this offseason when the two sides agreed to a 6-year, $120 million contract with 3 years and $51.4 million fully guaranteed. So the surprising thing is that the Los Angeles Rams, who Miller won the Super Bowl with last season, actually offered him a higher average annual salary. According to The Athletic, the Rams offer would have paid him more. Sorry, this thing keeps moving around. Would have paid him more on an annual basis. However, the deal breaker was they were only willing to fully guarantee 2 years. The Rams had a deal on the table that would have paid more per year on a 3-year contract, but with only 2 years guaranteed instead. At Miller's age, that extra guaranteed by the Bills meant something. He could not turn it down. Miller turned 33 this offseason. He is definitely on the back half of his career, so that one extra year of guaranteed money clearly meant a lot to him. The Bills are the betting favorites to win this year's Super Bowl. Yeah. So, won the Super Bowl with a team that's going to carry over into being the best team in the NFC and the Super Bowl favorite out of the NFC this year. Instead, he chose just to have one more guaranteed year of money, less annual money, to go join a team that has won absolutely nothing in the AFC. Nothing. Not an AFC championship. They've never been the number 1 seed since Josh Allen's been the quarterback there. And they have to go through the absolutely loaded AFC division, play against Patrick Mahomes, possibly in the playoffs once again, which is most likely what's going to happen. We're probably going to see that again. So much competition. You're leaving a team you just won a ring with. And, Aaron Donald is coming back. The whole team is coming back. OBJ may even be there again. And they just got Allen Robinson. They're even better on paper this year than they were last year. They just won the Super Bowl. And you're going to leave that team just for one extra guaranteed year?
And their division got significantly worse.
As if he hasn't made so much goddamn money in his career, dude. Von Miller's had huge contracts throughout his whole entire career. And he's going to sacrifice that to go play in the AFC and against Mahomes' division, the AFC. And you're going from being the top dog in the NFC, stepping down just for money to go play in the
And you're going from LA to Buffalo.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, you're going from the LA weather to fucking...
Well, and he also said something real quick. I don't want to take away from your shine here,
Yeah.
Trev, but he did say something also that cracked me up when he said he would have went to the Cowboys for less. He didn't.
Right.
The Cowboys offered him money, and he didn't take
Everybody
it.
was offering him money.
Right.
Shit.
So what
We
are you
were probably
talking about? You
offering him
would have
money.
went there for less. You could have.
Yeah.
You just didn't.
I just don't understand the logic there. I get it. Money, it's a one extra guaranteed thing. I mean, the deal he got in Buffalo is wild. The 3 guaranteed 6-year deal.
Desperation, boys. What I've been saying.
At 33, and I mean, you're going to and your old bones, your battled bones that have been through a lot, and you're going to play in cold weather. He's dealt with injuries the last few seasons of his career. I think that's a bad look. I'm not saying that the Bills are going to be great this year. That is a good ass team. They are going to be a very good team. They have a chance. They are the betting Super Bowl favorites right now. Fine. I think this is hindsight when we're looking at the end of the season when the Chiefs are in the AFC Championship again and whether we're facing whoever it is. And whenever we win that game, this is going to look like a bad decision on Von Miller's part. I know he signed it. He's going to be there for at least 3 years guaranteed. I just think he's going to look back on that he could have stayed in LA and played with the Rams. And there's a good chance the Rams are right back in the Super Bowl. That is a stacked team. Stafford another year in that offense.
Who the fuck is gonna stop him?
This is what I'm saying. Another year in that offense with Stafford and McVay. Like that is a
defense.
Leaving that, like he left that to go to Buffalo to play for a team that's won nothing. Josh Allen, who's granted, Josh Allen balled out last year, but he's a guy that's kind of been up and down in his career. You know what I mean? So I'm not saying he's gonna take a step back. Josh Allen's great, but you're talking about Matt Stafford. You're talking about a guy you just won a Super Bowl with.
Had the greatest postseason run in NFL
Aaron Donald
history.
coming back. I mean, there's
Matt Stafford literally had the greatest postseason run we've ever seen.
Yes, people would kill to be in that position to have a chance to repeat. Let alone just going from winning the Super Bowl and then leaving that. You got to do me a favor, buddy, and
Hold this
Well,
L.
that's a good L as well. You guys have been on fire today, man. All right, I like it. Hopefully this one will add to what you guys have already established here. There are people in management and ownership positions that get it a lot of times because of legacy, because of their families, and either inheriting the job or they went and bought that and then they give it to their children. And a lot of times that works out pretty well. We know that here in Kansas City. Clark Hunt is an amazing owner. He's done an incredible job. He's the reason why Andy Reid's the head coach here in Kansas City, and it saved this franchise. It saved a lot of our fanhoods, quite frankly. And then there's also the negative side of that. Jeannie Buss is that. The reason why I say that is because she's somebody that is a victim of revisionist history. She loves to romanticize things that are just simply false. And I'm going to say some pretty harsh things here for a second about somebody that, I'm not even really saying harsh things, I'm just going to bring some harsh reality to a situation, about somebody that we all adore, mostly because they were a great basketball player, but also because they lost their life way too early, and it's Kobe Bryant. And it's no fault of his. I'm just going to contextualize what's being said from somebody that, again, I think is a very foolish, spoiled individual that, again, plays off revisionist history and romanticizes things. So on 4th of July this year, Jeannie Buss came out with a very cryptic tweet that we all know what it was really aimed towards, or rather who it was aimed towards. And this is the quote verbatim on this tweet. Quote, "I miss KB," Kobe Bryant. "He would understand and explain everything that I'm not allowed to. Honestly, he was the greatest Laker ever. He understood team over self, meaning your rewards would come if you valued team goals over your own, then everything would fall into place. All can reply." End quote. So, real quick here, I wanted to play this little tidbit. And the reason why I remember this tidbit so well is because I was a senior in high school when this happened, and it shook the sports world when Kobe Bryant went on Stephen A. Smith's show and said this.
It's tough because when you with the organization for 11 years, and you've been a fan of theirs growing up, and you just love everything about the organization in terms of the players and the history and the fans and the city, and to go through something like this is extremely difficult. Finding out about the Shaq situation, and them promising me one thing in terms of wanting to rebuild right now, and telling Phil Jackson another thing, and it's rough, man. But I just don't see how you can rebuild that trust, and I just don't know how you can move forward in that type of situation.
Well, if you don't know how you can move forward in that situation, you're still under contract with them. Are you saying right here on this show that you want to be traded?
Yeah, I would like to be traded. Yeah.
There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. It's not a situation where what I know before you reportedly said that you would like them to get Jerry West back. Are you saying now emphatically, regardless of what they've done, you want out of Los Angeles?
Yeah, I would like to be traded, and as tough as it is to say that, and as tough as it is to come to that conclusion, there's no other alternative,
Hold on real quick. Sorry, guys. I needed that drink real quick. That's my tea. Rest in peace, Kobe Bryant. That day was one of the worst days as a sports fan I've ever had to endure. Trevor and I did a live video from our house. As soon as it happened, we were emotional. Everybody was absolutely devastated, whether you're even a fan of Kobe Bryant or not. So all that aside, all respect to Kobe. Those were his literal words. Now, they do things a lot differently these days. It was like 15 years ago, so they, you don't usually get guys on there saying stuff like that on shows where it's that candid, that honest, that raw. But that was one of the most historic interviews in the history of sports. Because Kobe didn't just say, "I want to be traded." He broke down the reasons why. Mm-hmm. And what were the reasons? The franchise was failing him. The same franchise that traded for him when he went 13th overall to the Hornets and put him in prime position to win championships with the greatest center that has ever lived. And they did just that. And Kobe played a significant role in that. But Kobe had to work his way into that while Shaq was already the man. And the moment it got hard, when they traded Shaq away, whether Kobe wanted that or not, there's still conflicting reports about whether he really wanted that or not. He detailed Shaq being traded, not being told. Kobe was not communicated that was going to happen. I think that was the biggest reason he was upset. Not that Shaq was gone, but he didn't tell, hey, we're going to trade Shaq. He felt distrust between him and that franchise. And the moment shit got tough, we saw when it became Kobe's team, they missed the playoffs entirely, and they lost back-to-back first-round exits. He wanted out.
Well, he wanted Jerry West back, too.
He wanted Jerry West back. He wanted Phil back because Phil was gone for a couple years. And to Jeannie's defense, she wasn't in charge of the team. I think she took over in like 2009, 2010. The point remains, though. This franchise, in Kobe's eyes, was failing him. And what did he want? Out. So when Jeannie Buss says shit like this, it's not even about Kobe. She's using him as a prop, as a sympathetic figure to win people over because she knows that LeBron is bigger than the Lakers. He is. He is the biggest brand in the NBA.
He's a mogul.
And she doesn't like the fact that he can control that. She can't control him. And so what does she do? She uses a great friend of LeBron James's, one of the most famous athletes in the history of American sports, and in fact, the world.
She's playing on the emotions of the
She's playing on the emotion of Lakers fans who she knows are undying, loyal fans that are forever loyal to their team over any player, but there also is the Kobe fans. We know this. We Trevor and I have Eddie, I'm sure you have friends in LA, family in LA. We all know that. There's this subgroup that aren't even just Laker fans. They're Kobe dudes. They're big Mamba Kobe's fans, right? They're loyal to the end. So she's trying to win them over because a lot of them, have been slowly going into the LeBron camp because of what LeBron's done, which is what? Bring them back to prominence. And LeBron still wants to control how his teams are built, which is well within his right because he's the one that brings the results wherever he's gone. This is a pathetic attempt, and quite frankly, a shameful attempt.
It's sick.
From an owner that should be much better at her job than what she is. Because what she doesn't seem to realize, and how ungrateful she is imagine if LeBron in 2018 didn't go to the Lakers. Where are they at right now? Shit. They probably still have. They're probably paying Lonzo Ball $100+ million, and he's maybe the fourth best player on a good team.
Right.
Maybe the second or third best player on a bad team. They probably still have Brandon Ingram or lost him to free agency.
They don't have a championship.
They don't have a championship. They do not have a championship in the last 4 years if it wasn't for LeBron going there. They definitely don't get Anthony Davis because Anthony Davis would have only gone there with LeBron being there.
Right.
So this revisionist history is so funny, and it's quite frankly so contradictory because you'll revisionist history what happened 15, 20 years ago, but you can't see what just happened 2 years ago when they won the title. This is shameful, man. And I'm not one that wants to sit here and just entirely defend LeBron James because everybody in our group, everybody in my life, everybody in our friends, they all know that I'm a LeBron guy. But I intentionally avoid conversations like this a lot of times because I think people think that there's just naturally blinders on. I'll criticize the man when he's wrong on something or he falls short like he did in the 2011 finals. But what I will not stand for is people sitting here using a dead man, a dead athlete, and try to lie and twist and connive what actually really happened to fit your narrative and try to downplay what the greatest player in the history of the NBA has done for your franchise in such a short amount of a time. It's despicable behavior, and Jeannie Buss is a despicable person for doing shit like this. So for that fact alone, Jeannie Buss, you do me a solid and hold this L. Stay in your damn lane. Man, this is a good show. Dude, we had a lot. We really went through a lot of stuff today. That was awesome. Like, we had a great NFL conversation to begin with, and then we just went all across the board. Man, we talked some WWE
You found
today.
some time to talk shit on GSP? I mean, we touched on that.
That's when it's a great episode. When we get to talk shit on GSP, Trevor's guy. That's when I'm in a great mood. But you know what, man? This is a fun show. Guys, we are literally just weeks away from training camp starting. And before we know it, we're going to have NFL football back, and we're going to really sink our teeth into this, guys. I hope you guys are excited. We've been trying our best to hold the fort down in these slow off-season times. We know that it gets kind of... You get antsy. I know that as a fan and somebody that likes to create content. I get a little anxious sometimes. I'm like, man, what are we going to talk about? Like, I'll be totally vulnerable. There are weeks where I'm like, dude, I'm really going to have to scrape the bottom of this barrel because I don't know what's out there that anybody even gives a fuck about. But you know what? We find a way. And we appreciate each and every one of you guys that sticks with us each and every week as we do this show because we have a blast, we have a good time, but we want to make sure that you guys have a good time and have a blast as well because that's what we do it for. We would not do it if you guys didn't give a shit. Maybe I'm lying, but I'd still want to do something, but maybe we don't do it as much. But nevertheless, we are getting closer and closer to what we care about the most, which is football, and we appreciate all you guys. And before that even happens, man, like I said, go to our YouTube channel. Subscribe, hit some comments on us, let us know, share it, guys, let your friends know about us. I'm not the type that likes to be that guy where I'm like, hit subscribe and share, and I don't want to be that guy. But do it. Yeah, exactly. I don't want to be that guy. I would hope that the product does that for us.
Yeah.
But we're still in a position where we want to grow, we want to continue to grow, and we appreciate everybody that's been a part of the growth from day one. We really do, and all the new people, welcome in, salute to you guys, and we're looking forward to getting more of you guys involved in this. And we'd love for there to be more interaction, and for that to happen, we need a little bit more subscription or more subscribers for that to be possible. But in the meantime, while y'all do that for us, we've done this for you, for Trevor Twidwell, for Eddie Ortiz, Mr. Yo, for the great Clay Windler that puts all this bad boy together. I am Lance Twidwell. Episode 174 of the Spoken Podcast is done, finished, and finito. And until we're here next week, this time next week for 175, we out of this bitch.